What if the Stargate Atlantis city ship crash landed in Game of Thrones 2011-2019? Season 2. The Clock. The 2 years started on day 72. Not officially, there was no ceremony, no specific moment where someone said, the 2 years begin now, in the specific declarative quality of someone marking a threshold. The 2 years started the way all important things started in the expedition's experience quietly, in the specific, ordinary quality of people who had been given a timeline and who were, the morning after the timeline was given, already working against it. McKay's countdown was on the lab display by 0600. Not dramatic, not the specific performance quality of a countdown that was designed to be seen. The specific functional quality of a scientist who needed to see the number every day in the specific way that seeing the number was the most honest thing he could do with the number. Not let it live in the back of his mind in the specific, comfortable way of things that were true and that you were not looking at directly. Look at it directly. Every morning. Let it be the first thing. Day 1 of 730. Weir saw it when she came in at 0700. She looked at it for a moment. She did not say anything about it. She sat down and opened the continental feed and began the specific daily work of monitoring a world that was, as of this morning, fully at war with itself. The War of the Five Kings, Day 72. The war had the specific quality of a fire that had been smoldering for months and that had, overnight, become a fire. The sensor feeds showed it in the specific clinical quality of thermal and electromagnetic data, army movements, signal fires, the specific patterns of a continental conflict igniting across multiple fronts simultaneously. Robb Stark's banners in the Riverlands. Stannis' fleet moving. Renly's enormous host assembling in the south. The Greyjoys watched the western coast with the specific patient quality of something that was waiting for the moment to take what the conflict made available. And in King's Landing, Cersei. Always Cersei. The specific quality of a woman who had received the raven from Castle Black about the floating city and who had, in the 71 days since, I've been watching the situation develop with the specific, complete attention of someone who understood that a city that could see everything was either the most dangerous thing in the world or the most useful thing in the world, and who had not yet determined which it was, and who was, in consequence, doing the specific thing she did when she had not yet determined something, gathering information and waiting. She had sent a spy north. McKay had flagged the ship 2 weeks ago, the specific quality of a vessel moving north along the coast toward the Shivering Sea without the specific cargo profile of a trading ship and with the specific careful quality of movement, of something that was trying not to be noticed. Weir had said, let them look. Shepard had said, they're going to report back. Weir had said, I know, let them. You want Cersei to know what we are, Shepard had said. I want Cersei to see what we are, Weir had said. There's a difference. Reports can be wrong, exaggerated, minimized. What someone sees themselves, that stays. The spy's ship had circled Atlantis for 2 days. It had gone south. Cersei was going to know. Weir was counting on it. Robb Stark comes to Atlantis Day 78. He came after the ford. Not immediately. There were the specific logistical demands of an army that had just crossed a river under time pressure and that needed to be repositioned and resupplied, and that needed its commander present for the specific dozen. Decisions that followed a successful tactical movement. Robb Stark had spent 6 days being a commander before he could be a visitor. But he came. He came on horseback to the northern coast with 3 of his commanders and Greywind at his heel, and he stood on the shore and looked at Atlantis in the Shivering Sea, and he had the specific quality that everyone had when they first saw it. From the shore, the specific quality of scale arriving all at once, the specific moment when the size of the thing stopped being a number and became a reality. The jumper brought him across. He sat behind Shepard, and he did not speak on the crossing. and when the jumper landed on the east pier and the hatch opened, he stepped out and he stood on the pier and he looked at the city around him and he was quiet for a long time. Not awe, not the specific performed quality of someone whose amazement was showing before they had processed it. The specific Robb Stark quality of looking at something completely and letting the looking produce the picture before the picture produced a response. Weir met him on the pier. She had met everyone on the pier. She extended her hand. He looked at the hand, the specific quality of someone from a world where hands were shaken by equals and where the gesture was, therefore, a statement, and he took it. "Dr. Weir," he said. "Your Grace," she said. He looked at the city. "It's larger than I expected," he said. "The sensor images don't, the scale doesn't translate." "It never does," she said. "Come inside." He came inside. The question. He asked it in the conference room. Not immediately. He spent an hour looking at everything Weir put in front of him. The continental map, the army positions. The full tactical picture of the war he was fighting was rendered in the specific, complete quality of sensor data that saw everything. He looked at his own position and the Lannister positions and the positions of every other force on the continent, and he was quiet, and he processed, and he asked specific tactical questions that Shepard answered, and he processed the answers. Then he pushed the tactical display to one side. He looked at Weir. "If you can see everything," he said, "why don't you stop all of it?" The conference room was quiet. The specific quality of a question that had been waiting to be asked since day one. The specific honest quality of someone who had seen the full board and who was asking the only question the full board produced when you were 19 years old and you were in the middle of a war and you were sitting across from someone who could see everything. Why don't you just end it? The war, the Lannisters, all of it. You have weapons that could. He stopped. He looked at Shepard. "At the ford, you showed me their positions. You could have ended the Lannister army that day, from the air, and you didn't." "No," Shepard said. "Why?" Robb said. Weir looked at him. At the specific quality of the question, not angry, not accusing, the specific honest quality of someone who genuinely did not understand, and who wanted to understand, and who was going to sit here until he did. "Because it's not our war," she said. "You're here," Robb said. "You're in it." "We're adjacent to it," she said. "There's a difference. People are dying," he said. "Yes," she said. "They are." She did not look away from it. The specific complete quality of Weir, with the things that were true and that were hard, not managing them, not softening them, holding them exactly as heavy as they were. People are dying, and we can see it happening, and we have the capability to stop some of it, and we are choosing not to. She paused. "That is the choice we made. I made it. Some." "Why?" Robb said again. "Because if we end the Lannister army today," she said, "then tomorrow there is a new question. Whose side are we on? And the day after that, the question is, what right does this city have to decide the outcome of Westeros's wars? And the day after that, every lord on this continent is either trying to use us or trying to destroy us. And we are no longer the neutral party that everyone can come to. We are a faction." She paused. "And a faction cannot do what we need to do." "What do you need to do?" Robb said. She turned the display. "To the north, to the cold signatures beyond the wall." "Stop that," she said. Robb looked at the display, at the army of the dead, at the numbers. He had seen the numbers before at the ford. Shepard had shown him the full picture. But he had been thinking about the tactical situation in that moment, and the numbers in the north had been the larger context rather than the immediate priority. Now he looked at them directly, at the specific patient mass of them, at the growth rate. "How long?" he said. "Before it reaches the wall?" Weir said. "Less than 2 years now." She paused. "Before it consumes everything south of the wall?" "That depends on what's waiting for it when it arrives." Robb looked at the display, at his own army, at the Lannister army, At the specific quality of a war that was enormous, and that was relative to what was coming from the north. The specific quality of something that was enormous, and that was also small. You need the war to end, he said. I need the living to still have armies when the dead arrive, she said, which means I need the war to not consume everything. She paused. I don't need it to end. I need it to not be the last thing. Rob looked at the north. For a long time, the specific quality of a young man who had been fighting one war and who had just been asked in the specific plain way of someone who did not dress the asking up, to hold two wars in his mind simultaneously, and to understand that the one he was fighting was the smaller one. What do you need from me? He said. Weir looked at him. At the specific quality of the question, the same question Stannis had asked, the same question Davos had produced by implication, the same question that the right people always arrived at when they had been given enough information and enough time and enough honesty. Win what you need to win, she said. Hold what you need to hold. Keep your army alive. She paused. And when the time comes to look north, look north. You'll tell me when, he said. You'll know when, she said. The sensor feeds will tell you before I do. Rob looked at the display. In the north, at the war, at the specific quality of a situation that was two things at once and that required him to be two things at once, and that he was, in this specific moment, deciding to be. All right, he said. He looked at Weir. There's something else, he said. Yes, she said. My father, he said. The specific quality of those two words, not grief, not yet. The specific quality of someone who had been carrying something since the moment it happened, and who had not yet put it down, and who was not putting it down now. You were watching from the beginning. You had the sensors. You had the full picture. He paused. Could you have saved him? The conference room was very quiet. Weir looked at him. At the specific quality of the question that she had known was coming since the ford, since the moment Shepard had landed the jumper in front of Robb Stark and shown him the full board, this question had been building. The specific, inevitable quality of someone who understood what seeing everything meant and who had a father who was dead. She did not look away. No, she said. We arrived after. The execution was on day 3 of our reconnaissance. We didn't have the political picture yet. We didn't know who he was or what the execution meant. She paused. By the time we understood, it was done. Rob looked at her. The specific quality of someone checking whether the answer was true. He found it was. He nodded once. Thank you, he said, for the honest answer. It's the only kind I give, she said. He looked at the north one more time. Then he stood. Show me the rest of the city, he said. I want to understand what we're working with. Shepard stood. Come on, he said. They went. Weir looked at the display, at the war, in the north, at the specific quality of a morning that had produced the right question and the honest answer, and the specific plain agreement of someone who had understood and who was going to do something with the understanding. Day 1 of 730. She began. McKay goes to the cave day 80. He went alone. Not because Weir hadn't offered to send someone with him, she had. The specific quality of a leader who understood that McKay in an unknown social situation had a specific failure mode, and that the failure mode was not malicious, but that it was real, and that it had consequences. He had declined on the specific grounds that the children of the forest were not a social situation. They were a scientific resource, and scientific resources did not require management. They required engagement. You're going to offend them, Shepard said. I'm going to ask them precise questions and expect precise answers, McKay said. If that's offensive, then they've been underground too long. They've been underground for 8,000 years, Shepard said. Then they're overdue for a direct conversation, McKay said. He flew north. He found the cave. He stood at the door for approximately 4 seconds before it opened, the specific quality of 4 seconds that was not hesitation, but the specific, rapid calculation of someone whose mind was already running the first 17 questions, and who was ordering them by priority before the conversation began. The child who opened the door looked at him. McKay looked at the child. "Rodney McKay," he said, "Chief Science Officer of the Atlantis expedition. I have a list of questions about the Night King's creation mechanism, the specific properties of dragonglass at the molecular level, the network architecture of the White Walker hierarchy, and the precise angle of the blade placement in the original creation event. I'd also like to understand the green site mechanism in biological terms, and I have 17 follow-up questions about the 8,000-year timeline that the accounts don't adequately explain." He paused. "I was told you could accommodate impatience." The child looked at him for a long moment. "Come in," it said. "Thank you," McKay said. He came in. He looked at the bioluminescent walls. He looked at the root systems. His expression had the specific quality of someone who was filing remarkable and moving immediately to mechanism. The bioluminescence is chemical. A specific oxidation reaction in the root tissue? Yes, the child said. Fascinating, McKay said. That's question 18. He sat down. He opened his tablet. Let's start with the dragonglass. Marwin's accounts describe the crystalline structure interacting with whatever animates the dead, but he doesn't have the vocabulary for the interaction. I do. He looked at the child. Tell me what happens in the most precise terms you have when dragonglass contacts a white. The child sat. It looked at McKay with the specific quality of something that had been patient for 8,000 years, and that was, in this specific moment, encountering the specific opposite of patience and finding it not unpleasant, exactly, interesting. The animation field, it said slowly, which sustains the dead, it is disrupted by the crystalline resonance of the obsidian. The specific molecular structure of the dragonglass produces a frequency. A frequency, McKay said. His stylus was already moving. Consistent across all dragonglass samples or variable by source deposit? Consistent, the child said. Because it's the silicon dioxide matrix, McKay said. Not a surface property, a bulk property, which means he stopped. He looked at the tablet. He looked at the child. Which means any material with the same silicon dioxide crystalline structure would work, not just dragonglass, any obsidian, any volcanic glass with the right matrix. Yes, the child said. There are 43 obsidian deposits on this continent, McKay said. I have their locations from the Geological Survey. He was already pulling the map. We've been thinking about dragonglass as a limited resource. It's not. It's not limited at all. He stopped. How much dragonglass do you think exists on Dragonstone alone? We do not think in those terms, the child said. I do, McKay said. Approximately 400,000 tons by my Geological Survey estimate. Which means, he did the calculation. Which means we can arm every living person on this continent with dragonglass weapons and still have material left over. He looked at the child. Nobody has figured this out in 8,000 years? Nobody had your instruments, the child said. Fair, McKay said. He made a note. All right. Question 2. The Night King's creation mechanism. The blade in the heart. You said the specific angle matters. I need the angle in precise terms. Degrees from vertical orientation relative to the sternum. Depth of penetration. The child looked at him. You want the specific geometry of an 8,000-year-old act, it said. I want the specific geometry of the only thing that ends this, McKay said. Yes. The child was quiet. Then it said, 17 degrees from vertical, lateral orientation, left of center, by approximately, paused, 2 of your finger widths, end quote. McKay looked at his tablet. At the specific quality of information that was the last piece of the most important puzzle he had ever worked on, and that had just been given to him in the specific plain terms of someone who had been there. 17 degrees from vertical, he said, left of center by approximately 3 centimeters. Yes, the child said. McKay looked at the tablet. He thought about Jon Snow, about the specific operational problem of someone reaching the Night King through 47,000 dead things and placing a blade at 17 degrees from vertical, left of center by 3 centimeters, in the specific heat of whatever that moment was going to be. He thought about the margin for error. Jon Snow is going to need to practice, he said. Yes, the child said. With a training mannequin, McKay said, waited to replicate the specific resistance of whatever the Night King's chest cavity consists of, which I'm going to need you to describe in detail. He paused. Question 3. The child looked at him. The specific quality of the look, not patience, not impatience. Something that was the specific 8,000-year version of finding someone remarkable and not having the vocabulary for remarkable that was separate from the vocabulary for significant. You are, the child said carefully, very different from the others. I know, McKay said. It's why they sent me. He looked at his tablet. Question 3. The network architecture. When the Night King concentrates after White Walker destruction, you described a consolidation effect. I need the specific mathematics of it. What percentage of White Walkers destroyed triggers what level of consolidation? Is it linear or exponential? The child looked at him. We do not use mathematics, it said. Then I'll derive it from the accounts, McKay said. But I need every account, every instance of White Walker destruction and the subsequent army behavior, every data point you have. He paused. I know you have them. You've been watching for 8,000 years. Yes, the child said slowly. Then let's start, McKay said. He looked at the bioluminescent walls, at the specific quality of a place that had been waiting 8,000 years to give someone this information and that had, in the specific abrasive and impatient and completely precise quality of Rodney McKay, found exactly the right person to give it to. I have 17 questions, he said. Well, 19 now. Possibly 23 by the time we finish question 2. He paused. How long can you talk? The child looked at him. We have been here for 8,000 years, it said. Perfect, McKay said. I'll need at least 6 hours. Dragonstone the same day. Stannis received the weekly sensor report at 0800. He read it the way he read everything, completely, once, retaining it in the specific, complete way of a man whose memory was not remarkable, but whose attention was. The specific quality of someone who read something once and knew it because he had read it with the specific, complete quality of his whole attention, rather than the partial quality of someone who was reading and thinking about something else simultaneously. The army of the dead had grown by 700 units in the past week. He put the report down. He looked at Davos. The rate is increasing, he said. Yes, Davos said. The 2-year estimate was conservative, Stannis said. Dr. Weir said as much, Davos said. She said, the estimate was built on the current rate. The rate is not staying current. Stannis looked at the map, at the wall. 3,000 men are currently marching north toward it. At the specific quality of a logistical problem that was changing its parameters faster than the response to it was being built. The men need to move faster, he said. They're already moving at full pace, Davos said. Then they need horses, Stannis said. Every man on horseback. We buy whatever the North has available. That will cost. I know what it will cost, Stannis said. Do it. Davos looked at him. There's something else, Stannis said. The specific quality of his voice when there was something else not different in tone, because Stannis's tone was always the same, but different in the specific weight of the pause before it. The sensor report shows Robb Stark at Atlantis yesterday. Yes, Davos said. Weir is building relationships, Stannis said. Yes, Davos said. With every faction simultaneously, Stannis said. Yes, Davos said. Stannis was quiet. She is very good, he said. Davos almost smiled. Yes, he said. She is. Stannis looked at the map. At the war below the wall, and the dead above it, and the specific quality of a woman in a floating city who was building the alliance that the war needed to stop being a war before the dead arrived, and who was doing it with the specific, patient quality of someone who understood that the building was the thing. Send her the accelerated timeline, Stannis said. The rate increased. She needs to know. She already knows, Davos said. She flagged it in the report before we did. Stannis looked at him. Of course she did, he said. He looked at the map. The men move faster, he said. And tell the maester I want a full accounting of every dragonglass deposit on this island by tomorrow morning. Dragonstone sits on. I know what Dragonstone sits on, Stannis said. And apparently, so does Dr. McKay. He paused. I want to know exactly how much we have before he tells me. The Night King Day, 83. The sensor alarm went off at 0300. Not the specific emergency quality of an alarm that meant something was happening right now. The specific alert quality of an alarm that meant a threshold had been crossed, that the parameters McKay had set for the Army of the Dead's behavior had been met in a way that the parameters had been set to flag. McKay was in the lab. He was always in the lab at 0300. He looked at the display, at the specific quality of what the display was showing. He was quiet for 30 seconds. Then he picked up his radio. Weir, he said. I'm awake, she said. The specific quality of her voice at 0300, not groggy, not the specific slow-coming quality of someone woken from deep sleep. She had been awake. She was always aware, in the specific quality of a leader who carried the situation even when she was not actively working it, that the situation was there and that it could produce a 0300 call. The Night King changed his formation, McKay said. A pause. Show me, she said. He put it on the central display. She was in the control room in 4 minutes. She looked at the display, at the Army of the Dead, at the specific quality of what had changed, not the size, not the movement direction, the formation. The Night King had moved. For 83 days, he had been at the rear of the army, the specific, protected position of a commander who understood that his survival was the survival of the army and who placed himself accordingly. He had moved forward, not to the front, not yet, to the center. The specific quality of a commander who was redistributing his position in the formation in the specific way that commanders redistributed when the tactical situation changed and when the new position better served the new situation. He knows about Jon Snow, McKay said. Weir looked at the display. He can't know about Jon Snow, she said. He knows something changed, McKay said. In the cave. The children are connected to the Greensite network, and Bran is connected to the Greensite network, and whatever happens in the network, the Night King can feel it. He doesn't know the specific plan, but he knows something is building. He paused. He's protecting himself. Weir looked at the display, at the Night King's new position, at the specific quality of a primary node moving to a more protected position within the network. It was directing the specific behavior of something that was not afraid, but that was cautious, that had survived 8,000 years by being exactly as cautious as the situation required, and that was, right now, assessing that the situation required more caution than before. He's going to keep moving, she said. As we build, he'll keep adjusting. Yes, McKay said. Then we need to build faster than he adjusts, she said. That is, yes, the problem, McKay said. Weir looked at the display. At the countdown McKay had put on the lab wall, day 12 of 730. She looked at the Night King's new position, at the specific quality of something that was moving in response to what they were building, not reacting, not panicking, adjusting. The specific, precise adjustment of something that had been doing this for 8,000 years and that was very good at it. "Wake Shepard," she said. "He's all ready." "I know," she said. Shepard came through the door. He looked at the display. At the Night King's position. At Weir. "He moved," Shepard said. "Yes," Weir said. "He knows," Shepard said. "He suspects," Weir said. "There's a difference." She looked at the display. "But the difference is getting smaller." Shepard looked at the formation, at the specific quality of a chess game in which the opponent had just moved a piece, and in which the move had the specific quality of a player who was not reacting to what had been done, but anticipating what was going to be done, positioning against it. "Then we need to give him something to look at," Shepard said. "Something that takes his attention. Something that makes him think the threat is coming from one direction while the actual threat is being built in another." Weir looked at him. "A misdirection," she said. "A long one," Shepard said. "Not a feint, a full campaign. Something that looks like the complete picture." He paused. "While the complete picture is actually something else entirely." Weir looked at the display. At the Night King. At the wall. At the specific quality of a situation that had just required the next level of the plan, and that had, in Shepard's suggestion, the shape of the next level already in it. "Build it," she said. "I need McKay," Shepard said. "You have McKay," she said. "I need Jon Snow," Shepard said. "You have Jon Snow," she said. "And I need—" He paused. "I need Melisandre." Weir looked at him, at the specific quality of a request that she had not expected, and that was, in the specific plain way of things that were unexpected and correct, already being processed. "Why?" she said. "Because the Night King watches the Greensight network," Shepard said. "And Melisandre's fire is part of the same network. Not the same mechanism, different instrument, same signal." He paused. "If she burns something specific, shows the Night King something specific through the fire, something that looks like the plan, we want him to think is the plan. You want to feed him false intelligence through the fire," Weir said. "Yes," Shepard said. The control room was quiet. McKay looked at Shepard. "That," McKay said, "is either the most brilliant thing you've ever said or the most catastrophically stupid." "Which is it?" Shepard said. McKay looked at the display, at the Night King's new position, at the specific quality of an opponent who was cautious and ancient and very good at this. "I need to think about it," McKay said. "Think fast," Shepard said. "I always think fast," McKay said. He turned to his console. Weir looked at the display. At the Night King. At the countdown. Day 12 of 730. The building continued. Melisandre comes to Atlantis Day 87. She came by sea. Not because the jumper hadn't been offered. Shepard had sent the offer through the Dragonstone Channel, the specific polite quality of a standing invitation that was available and that did not require acceptance. She had declined. She came by sea in the specific, deliberate quality of someone who made choices about how she arrived somewhere, and for whom the how was part of the arriving. She stood on the bow for the entire crossing. Shepard watched her on the sensors. "She's been standing there for 6 hours, he said. "She's making a statement," Taylor said. "What statement?" Shepard said. "That she arrives on her own terms," Taylor said. "That she is not fetched. That she comes." Shepard looked at the sensor image, at the specific quality of a red-robed figure on the bow of a ship in the shivering sea who had been standing in the same position for 6 hours, without moving in a way that even the high-resolution sensors could detect as discomfort. "All right," he said. He went to meet her at the pier. She stepped off the ship and onto the pier, and she looked at the city around her, and she had not the scale reaction, not the specific quality that everyone had when they first arrived, something else. The specific quality of someone who had been seeing things for years that nobody else could see, and who was, in this moment, seeing something that was visible and that was larger than everything she had seen that was invisible and who was, in consequence, not overwhelmed, but confirmed. You are real, she said. Shepard looked at her. Were you not sure? He said. The Lord of Light showed me this city, she said. In the flames. 3 years ago, she looked at the towers. I was not certain whether the vision was literal. It's pretty literal, Shepard said. Yes, she said. She looked at him. At the specific quality of her looking, not assessment. Not the specific quality of someone determining what someone was. Recognition. The specific quality of someone who had already seen him and who was now placing the seen thing in front of the actual thing and finding them aligned. You are the one who flies. That's me, Shepard said. The Lord of Light has shown you to me, she said. In the flames, many times. I'm not sure how I feel about that, Shepard said. You should feel chosen, she said. I'm really not a chosen kind of guy, Shepard said. She looked at him for a moment. No, she said slowly. You are not. That is, she paused. That is unusual. Is it? Shepard said. The ones the Lord of Light shows me are always. They carry the weight of it, she said. The significance. They know themselves to be significant. She paused. You do not. I just fly the jumper, Shepard said. Yes, she said. The specific quality of her voice, not dismissal, not the way the statement would have landed as dismissal from someone else. The specific quality of someone who had just understood something that had been unclear and who was filing it carefully. That is why. She walked toward the city. Shepard followed. The fire question day, 87, evening. She sat across the table from McKay. McKay had prepared for this meeting with the specific quality of someone who did not believe in fire visions, but who believed absolutely in the effect of fire visions on the behavior of people who did believe in fire visions, and who had, therefore, prepared for the meeting as a communication systems problem rather than a theology problem. He had 17 slides. He showed her the first one. This is the Green Site Network, he said. Bran Stark is here, the primary node. The children of the forest are here, secondary nodes. The Night King is, we believe, operating on the same network, but as an intrusion, not a natural node. Something that forced itself into the architecture 8,000 years ago and has been operating there since. Melisandre looked at the slide. Yes, she said. The fire visions, McKay said. Relor, the Lord of Light. He moved to the next slide. We believe the fire is a separate network. Different architecture, different origin, possibly different source, but overlapping with the Green Site Network at specific intersection points. Melisandre looked at the slide. You are describing the Lord of Light as a communications network, she said. I'm describing the mechanism by which information moves through the world without moving through the world in the conventional physical sense, McKay said. Whether there's a deity involved in that mechanism is a theological question I'm not qualified to answer and am deliberately not answering. Melisandre looked at him. You are a man of extraordinary certainty, she said. About things I can measure, McKay said. Yes. And the things you cannot measure? I'm working on instruments, McKay said. The specific quality of a pause that was Melisandre processing Rodney McKay, the specific experience that everyone had of processing Rodney McKay, the specific quality of finding that the standard frameworks did not quite apply and that a new framework was required, and that the new framework was, once you had it, actually more useful than the standard one. You want to use the fire, she said. I want to use the fire's intersection with the Green Site Network, McKay said. Specifically, I want to show the Night King something through the fire, something that looks like a complete strategic picture, something that makes him think he understands what we're planning. While you plan something else, she said. Yes, McKay said. You want to deceive the Night King, she said, through the Lord of Light's fire. I want to feed false targeting data into a network the Night King is monitoring, McKay said. Yes. Melisandre was quiet. She looked at the slide, at the network diagram, At the specific quality of a question that was not theological, not should the Lord of Light's fire be used for this, but operational. Can it be used for this? Will it work? The fire shows truth, she said. I cannot choose what it shows. You choose what you burn, McKay said. You choose what you ask of it. Yes, she said slowly. Then you can shape the question, McKay said. You can't control the answer, but if you shape the question, and if the Night King is watching the network and receiving what the fire produces as signal, you want me to ask the fire to show him something specific, she said. I want you to ask the fire questions whose answers will look, from the Night King's perspective, like the full picture, McKay said. He'll do the rest. He'll interpret what he receives as intelligence. He's been doing it for 8,000 years, using the network to anticipate. He paused. If we give him something to anticipate that isn't the actual plan, he anticipates wrong. Melisandre looked at him. The specific quality of the look, no doubt. Consideration. The specific quality of someone who was working through an idea that was new and that was, the more she worked through it, not contrary to what she understood of the fire, but an extension of it. A use she had not considered. A question she had not thought to ask. What do you want him to think the plan is? She said. McKay turned to the next slide. A northern assault, he said, through Eastwatch. The jumpers hit the army's flank from altitude while Jon Snow's force attacked the front on the ground. He paused. Conventional. Aggressive. End quote. End quote. The kind of plan a military force with air superiority would make. And the actual plan, she said. McKay looked at the slide. The actual plan, he said, is the one I'm not going to tell anyone until we need everyone to know it. He paused. Because the Night King is in the network. And anyone who knows the actual plan is a potential source. He paused again. Except you. Because you need to know the false plan well enough to ask the fire about it convincingly. And the false plan needs to be detailed enough that when he interprets the signal, he gets a complete picture. He looked at her. A completely wrong picture. Melisandre looked at the slide. At the false plan laid out in the specific detail of a plan that was meant to be believed. You have thought about this for a long time, she said. Since day 83, McKay said. 4 days. Which is a long time for me. It is a significant act, she said. To use the Lord's fire for winning, McKay said. For winning. She looked at him. The specific quality of the look. Yes, she said quietly. Yes, you'll do it, he said. Yes, she said. I will do it. McKay nodded. He moved to the next slide. Good, he said. Now I need to understand the specific mechanics of how you direct a vision question. Walk me through it, step by step. Don't skip anything because it seems obvious. Nothing is obvious to me until it's been explained and I've asked 6 follow-up questions. Melisandre looked at him. The specific quality of the look different from how she had looked at him when she arrived. The specific quality of someone who had come to this room expecting the meeting to be about faith and who had found that it was actually about work, and who was, in the specific honest way, of someone who had been a worker for 30 years in the specific clothing of a believer, relieved. From the beginning, she said. From the beginning, McKay said. His stylus moved. Jon Snow learns day 90. Ghost found the jumper first. The specific quality of Ghost finding the jumper, not alarm, not the defensive posture that most direwolves had around things that were new and that moved and that smelled wrong. Curiosity. The specific quality of an animal who processed the world more completely than the people around him and who had, in the specific plain assessment of that processing, determined that the jumper was not a threat and was interesting. He circled it twice. Then he sat next to it, like he was waiting. Shepard landed and opened the hatch, and Ghost was sitting next to the port side wing and looking at him, and Shepard looked back and said, "Good dog." Ghost's ears moved. Jon Snow came over the rise with 4 of his rangers behind him, and he saw the jumper and he saw Ghost sitting next to the jumper, and he stopped. He doesn't usually do that, John said. He's got good instincts, Shepard said. For what? John said. For what's important, Shepard said. He looked at John. I need to talk to you. Privately. He paused. It's going to take a while. John looked at his rangers. Go back to the hall, he said. They went. John looked at the jumper. We're going inside, he said. End quote. We're going for a flight, Shepard said. John looked at the jumper, at the sky, at the specific quality of a decision that was not about the jumper or the sky, but about what the flight meant, that Shepard had come to Castle Black specifically to take him somewhere, and that somewhere was going to involve information that Shepard had decided required altitude and privacy and distance from the wall. All right, John said. He got in. Ghost tried to get in. He's too large, Shepard said. Ghost looked at him. I know, Shepard said. I'm sorry. He closed the hatch. Ghost sat next to the jumper until it lifted. Then he pointed his face at it and he watched it until it was gone. What Shepard told him, he told him in the air. Not the specific managed quality of information given in a room where the recipient had walls and furniture and the specific physical context of a known space. The specific deliberate choice of altitude. Above the clouds. The wall, a white line below them, and the army of the dead beyond it, a pattern on the ground that from up here had the specific clinical quality of data before it had the specific personal quality of reality. He wanted John to see both things at the same time. He told him about the children's information, about McKay's sessions in the cave, about the silicon dioxide matrix and the 43 deposits, and the specific practical implication that dragonglass was not a scarce resource, and that the resource problem was not the problem. John processed this without speaking. Then he told him about the Night King's position in the network, about the Greensite intersection, about Melisandre and the fire and the misdirection. John was quiet for a long time. He'll see a northern assault, John said, through Eastwatch. That's what he'll see, Shepard said. And we won't be doing that, John said. No, Shepard said. John looked at the army below them. Then what will we be doing, he said. Shepard looked at him. The specific quality of the look measuring, not the information but the person receiving it. The specific quality of someone who had been doing this long enough to know that the next thing he said was either going to build something or break something, and that the difference was in the reading of the person he was saying it to. He read Jon Snow. The specific quality of Jon Snow at this altitude, looking at the army of his enemy through a window in a machine that flew, not afraid, not performing courage. The specific plain quality of someone who was looking at something that needed to be looked at and who was doing the looking. He told him. Jon was quiet for a very long time. Below them, the wall. Beyond it, the dead. He needs to die, Jon said finally. The Night King, not the army. Him. Yes, Shepard said. And I need to reach him, Jon said. Yes, Shepard said. Through all of that, Jon said. Yes, Shepard said. Jon looked at the army, at the specific scale of it, from altitude, the specific, honest quality of altitude, that it showed you things in their actual size, that it removed the specific, comfortable distortion of ground-level perspective, where the thing in front of you was always largest. From up here, the army was large. From up here, everything was in its actual size. Train me, Jon said. I'm going to, Shepard said. Not the sword work, Jon said. I know the sword. Train me to reach him, getting through. The specific, he paused. The specific quality of someone who had been a soldier long enough to know that what killed you was usually not the thing you expected, but the specific gap between what you'd trained for and what you met. Train me for what I haven't seen yet. Shepard looked at him. That, Shepard said, is the smartest thing anyone has asked me since we got here. How long? Jon said. As long as it takes, Shepard said. We have 2 years, Jon said. Less, Shepard said. The timeline is accelerating. Jon looked at the army. Then we start tomorrow, he said. We start now, Shepard said. He turned the jumper. First lesson, understanding what you're looking at from altitude, what the army's formation tells you about its priorities, what the Night King's position within it tells you about his. Jon looked at the display, at the specific quality of information rendered in the clean, clinical language of sensor data numbers and positions and movement vectors, the specific, complete picture of the thing they were going to have to walk into. Show me, he said. Shepard showed him. Below them, the wall ran east to west across the world. Above them, the sky was the specific gray of a northern morning that was not going to get lighter. The building continued. Day 19 of 730. Sansa Day 35. Weir sent Tayla, not Shepard. Shepard was the military face of the expedition, and this was not a military conversation. Not McKay. McKay's capacity for the specific quality of human pain that required sitting rather than solving was limited, and Weir knew it and did not send him into situations that required it. Tayla. Because Tayla was the person on the expedition who understood the specific quality of loss that came from faction and politics, and the specific violence of the world, making decisions about your family without your consent. She had lost her people. She knew what that was. The jumper landed on the roof of Maegor's holdfast at midnight. Not the main keep. Weir had identified the specific location of Sansa's room weeks ago. The specific patient quality of someone who had been watching King's Landing and who had been noting the people in it who were going to matter, and who had, in noting Sansa Stark, understood that the time would come when the noting became something more active. The time had come. Tayla opened the hatch. Sansa was at the window. She had been at the window since the Raven came. She turned when the jumper's running lights appeared above the holdfast roof, and she looked at it, and she had not fear, not the specific defensive quality of someone who didn't know what it was. She had seen the jumpers over King's Landing. Everyone had seen the jumpers over King's Landing. The floating city in the shivering sea was not a secret. Cersei had ensured that everyone in the capital knew exactly what it was, and exactly how far away it was, and exactly what it was not doing, which was intervening, which was the specific message Cersei wanted her court to receive. So Sansa knew what it was. She did not know why it was here. Tayla stepped onto the roof. She was alone. She looked at Sansa through the window, not a long look, not a measuring look, the specific brief look of someone confirming a face and then moving past the confirmation to the conversation. She gestured, "Come out." Sansa looked at the hatch, at the roof, at Tayla. She came out. The roof was cold, the specific King's Landing cold of a late autumn night that was warmer than Castle Black, but that had the specific damp quality of a city built on a bay, and that got into you in a different way than the sky. North's cold. Sansa had a shawl. She had been wearing it since the Raven came. She had not taken it off. Tayla looked at her. "I am Tayla Emigan," she said. "I serve with the Atlantis expedition." "I know who you are," Sansa said. The specific quality of her voice, not the performed quality of a girl maintaining composure. The specific plain quality of someone who had been maintaining composure for so long that the maintenance had become structural, that it was not an effort anymore, but a load-bearing element. "Everyone knows who you are." "Yes," Tayla said. "Did Dr. Weir send you?" Sansa said. "Yes," Tayla said. Sansa looked at the city below them, at the specific quality of King's Landing at night, the fires, the smell, the specific contained quality of 1,000,000 people in a small space, with all the specific human things that 1,000,000 people in a small space produced. "She watched," Sansa said. "The floating city. It watches everything." "Yes," Tayla said. "She watched the Red Wedding," Sansa said. "Yes," Tayla said. Sansa looked at the city. The specific quality of her not looking at Taylor, not avoidance, not the inability to hold the conversation. The specific quality of someone who needed to not be looked at while the words were being said, and who was managing the conversation from the side rather than the front, and who was doing it in the specific, precise way of someone who had learned to manage things precisely because imprecision had costs. She didn't stop it, Sansa said. No, Taylor said. Could she have? Sansa said. Taylor was quiet for a moment. Yes, she said. Sansa closed her eyes. The specific quality of the closing, not grief arriving, not the specific sudden quality of something breaking. The specific quality of grief that had already been sitting in the body for 2 days, and that was, at the honest answer, simply confirmed, simply held. She opened them. Why? She said. Because the war cannot belong to us, Taylor said. Because if we choose its outcomes, then we become a faction in it, and a faction cannot do what we need to do. She paused. I know, that is not the answer that helps. No, Sansa said, it isn't. She was quiet. But it's the honest one. Yes, Taylor said. Sansa looked at the city. My brother, she said. My mother. She said the words in the specific, plain quality of someone who was not dramatizing them and who was not suppressing them, simply stating them. They are gone. Yes, Taylor said. And Arya, Sansa said. I don't know where Arya is. She was near the twins, Taylor said carefully. She was not inside. Sansa looked at her. The specific quality of the look, the first direct look of the conversation. The specific, sharp quality of someone who had just received information that changed something and who was, in the specific, precise way of Sansa Stark, processing exactly what the information changed and what it did not change and what it required. She's alive, Sansa said. We believe so, Taylor said. We are tracking her. Where is she? Sansa said. Moving, Taylor said. North. She is. She paused. The specific quality of the pause. She is with someone. We do not yet know who. Sansa looked at the city. She's going to do something, Sansa said. The specific quality of the statement. Not worry. Knowledge. The specific knowledge of a sister. She's always going to do something. She can't. She doesn't sit with things. She moves. Yes, Taylor said. That's going to get her killed, Sansa said. Or, it's going to be exactly what is needed, Taylor said. Sansa looked at her. Dr. Weir sent you, Sansa said again. She didn't send you just to tell me Arya is alive. No, Taylor said. What does she need? Sansa said. Taylor looked at her. At the specific quality of the question, the same question that Robb had asked and Stannis had asked and Davos had produced by implication, the question that the right people arrived at when they had been given enough. Not, what do you want from me? The specific defensive quality of that. What do you need? The specific orientation toward the thing rather than toward the self. Not yet, Taylor said. There is nothing she needs from you right now that you are in a position to give. She paused. But there will be. And when there is, she wants you to know that we are here. Sansa looked at her. That's it, Sansa said. That is it, Taylor said. Sansa looked at the city. At the specific quality of a night that had produced an honest answer and a sister alive, and the specific plain statement of a floating city in the shivering sea that was watching and that was, when the time came, going to need something from her, and that was not going to pretend otherwise. Tell her, Sansa said, that I heard her. I will, Taylor said. She turned toward the jumper. Taylor, Sansa said. Taylor stopped. The thing you need to do, Sansa said. The thing she can't be a faction for. She paused. Is it worth it? Taylor looked at her. At the specific quality of the question, not rhetorical, not accusatory. The specific, honest question of someone who was trying to build a framework for the specific pain of the answer she'd received and who needed the framework to hold. Yes, Taylor said. You're certain, Sansa said. I have seen what is in the north, Teyla said. I have seen what it does to everything it reaches. She paused. Yes, I am certain. Sansa looked at the city. All right, she said. Teyla went. The jumper lifted. Sansa stood on the roof in the specific cold of a King's Landing autumn night, and she watched the running lights until they were gone, and then she stood in the specific dark of the city, and she held the weight of the 2 days, and she did not look away from it. Below her, the city moved and breathed and stank and lived. To the north, her sister was alive and moving. Further north, beyond the wall, the dead waited. She went inside. McKay and the ZPM Day 41. He found it in the Eastern Pier's lower maintenance section in 0214. Not found implied it had been lost, which implied a specific failure of the inventory system that McKay would not accept. He knew it was there. He had known since week 3 that the Eastern Pier's lower sections contained secondary power components that the original expedition survey had cataloged and then deprioritized in the specific triage quality of a survey conducted. Under crisis conditions that had noted everything but had only fully assessed the things that were immediately critical. The ZPM was not immediately critical. It was now. It was at 14% charge. McKay stared at it. The specific quality of McKay staring at a ZPM at 14%, not the specific good news quality of we have a ZPM, but the specific complex news quality of we have a ZPM at 14%, which is both more than nothing and less than what we need, and which changes the calculation in specific ways that are going to take me 2 hours to fully map. He sat on the floor next to it. He pulled out his tablet. He did the calculation. 14%. At current draw. The sensors, the shield, the basic operational systems, 14% would last approximately 11 months. Not the full timeline. Not 730 days. 11 months from today, approximately day 350. The city would begin drawing on reserve power, and the sensors would start to degrade, and then the shield, and then everything else in the specific sequential quality of a power failure that would not be sudden, but that would be steady, and that would be, by the time it was noticeable, already too late to stop, unless. McKay looked at the tablet. Unless the draw was reduced. Unless the non-critical systems were taken offline. Unless he ran the calculation again, unless the shield was operated at reduced capacity except when specifically required, the sensors rotated rather than running full coverage continuously. The secondary labs depowered. He ran the calculation. Day 480. He ran it again with more aggressive reduction. Day 560. Not 730. Not 730, he said, to the empty maintenance section. He sat on the floor. The specific quality of McKay sitting on the floor with a problem not defeated. The specific quality of defeat was not something McKay did with problems, because defeat required accepting that the problem was not solvable, and McKay did not accept that until the mathematics proved it, and the mathematics had not proved it yet. The specific quality of someone who was sitting with the full weight of the problem and letting the full weight of it produce the next question. The next question was, where else could the power come from? He made a list. The list had 4 items. 3 of them were not viable, the specific detailed not viable of things that had been considered and eliminated for specific technical reasons, rather than the specific vague not viable of things that hadn't been fully thought through. The 4th item was Dragonstone. He looked at it, at the specific quality of an item on a list. That was not a power source in the conventional sense, but that was the geological survey, the silicon dioxide deposits, the specific volcanic activity that had produced the dragonglass, and that was still in the deep geological surveys. Ongoing, he sat up. He ran a different calculation. Geothermal. "Oh," he said. He was running full schematics before he finished the word. "Oh," he said again. He picked up his radio. "Weir." A pause. "McKay," she said. "I need Stannis to let me dig a hole in Dragonstone," he said. A longer pause. "How big a hole?" she said. "Very big," he said. "Extremely big. Geologically significant." He paused. "The good news is, I'm going to give him unlimited dragonglass in exchange." "He already has unlimited dragonglass," Weir said. "He has access to it," McKay said. "I'm going to give him the processed version. Cut, shaped, weapon-ready, 40,000 units in 8 months." He paused. "All I need is the hole." Silence on the radio. The specific quality of the silence Weir calculating. The specific quality of Weir running the variables. The political ones alongside the technical ones. The full picture of what the request required and what it produced and where the edges were. "I'll talk to Stannis," she said. "Tell him it's not optional," McKay said. "Tell him the city needs it." "I'll tell him it's a mutual benefit," Weir said. "Which it is, and which will produce a better outcome than telling him it's not optional." "Fine," McKay said. "But be specific about the timeline. I need to start by day 60 at the latest." "Day 60, Weir said. "The power degradation starts at day 350 without intervention," McKay said. "If I start at day 60, I have 290 days to build the geothermal system before the degradation begins. If I start later." "Day 60, Weir said. "I'll have the answer from Stannis by day 45. "Good," McKay said. He looked at the ZPM. At 14%. At the specific quality of a problem that had just produced a solution that was going to require digging a very large hole in an island and building a geothermal power relay in the 9 months before the dead arrived, and that was going to arm 40,000 people with dragonglass weapons in the process. "Tell him," McKay said, "that the weapons will be better than anything his smiths can produce. The crystalline structure, I can shape them to maximize the resonance frequency. They'll be more effective than raw dragonglass by a factor of." "Day 45, Weir said. "Get some sleep." "I don't need." "McKay," she said. "The specific quality of his name is said in that specific way." "Fine," he said. 2 hours. "Thank you," she said. He looked at the ZPM, at the tablet, at the list. He put the tablet down. He did not sleep for 2 hours. He slept for 40 minutes, and then he was back at the console running geothermal schematics, because the problem was there, and the problem did not stop being there when you closed your eyes and there was something in the specific quality of knowing what the solution was that made not working on it feel like the wrong use of the time. Day 41 of 730. Stannis says, "Yes, day 44. He said it in one sentence. Not the specific deliberative quality of someone who needed to be persuaded. Weir had prepared for persuasion. The specific layered quality of an argument that addressed the primary objection and then the secondary objection, and that had the geological survey data and McKay's power calculations and the weapons yield projections all available, in the specific order that a skeptical listener would require them. Stannis looked at the first slide. He looked at Weir. "Yes," he said. Weir looked at him. "You don't want to see the full." "I've read McKay's preliminary report," Stannis said. "Davos received it yesterday. I read it last night." He paused. "The geothermal system addresses the city's power problem. The dragonglass weapons address my army's equipment problem. The hole in Dragonstone is the cost." He paused again. "It's a reasonable cost. There are some structural considerations." "I read those as well," Stannis said. "McKay proposes to reinforce the island's eastern cliff face before excavation begins. The structural risk is managed." He looked at her. I said, "Yes, Dr. Weir." "Move on." Weir looked at him. The specific quality of the look, not surprising. Exactly. The specific quality of someone who had come prepared for a long conversation and who was recalibrating in real time to the short one that was actually happening. and who was, in the recalibrating, finding something that she was going to file away for later about Stannis Baratheon and the specific quality of how he made decisions. He had read the report the night before. He had made the decision before she arrived. He had let her come anyway because the meeting was not about the decision. The meeting was about something else. "You wanted to see me in person," she said. "Yes," Stannis said. "Why?" she said. Stannis looked at the map, at the war, in the north. "The timeline is accelerating," he said. "McKay's latest projection has the wall under pressure by day 500 at the current growth rate, possibly sooner." "Yes," Weir said. "My force at Castle Black is 4,000 men," Stannis said. "The Free Folk Tormund's estimate is 9,000 fighters. The remaining northern forces fragmented, leaderless, but available with the right leadership," Weir said. "Yes," Stannis said. "The Riverlands forces, the Vale," he paused. "The Vale has not moved. Robin Arryn's regent has kept the Vale army behind the Bloody Gate for 2 years. That is," he paused, 8,000 men doing nothing." "Yes," Weir said. "Someone needs to move them," Stannis said. Weir looked at the map, at the Vale, at the specific quality of an army that was intact and supplied and stationary, the specific frustrating quality of a resource that existed and that was not being used. "Lysa Arryn," Weir said. "Lysa Arryn," Stannis said, "who does not respond to ravens, who has sealed the Eyrie, and who has, by every account, become paused. The specific Stannis quality of looking for the precise word and finding it unstable. "Yes," Weir said. "Someone needs to go to the Eyrie," Stannis said. "Someone she will see. Someone who can." He paused again. "I am not the right person. My relationship with the Vale is complicated," Weir said. "Legally contested," Stannis said. "Yes." Weir looked at the map, at the Eyrie, at the specific quality of a problem that had a specific shape, a woman in a fortress who would not open her gates, and an army behind the gates that the world needed moving. "Sansa Stark," Weir said. Stannis looked at her. "Lysa Arryn is her mother's sister," Weir said. "The only surviving family she has in a position of power." She paused. "And Sansa Stark is in King's Landing, which means getting her to the Eyrie requires getting her out of King's Landing," Stannis said. "Yes," Weir said. Stannis looked at the map. "Can you do that?" he said. "Yes," Weir said. "Cersei will." "Cersei will know," Weir said, "and Cersei will be angry, and Cersei will add it to the specific long list of things she is angry about regarding this expedition." She paused. "I can manage Cersei's anger." "Can you?" Stannis said. The specific quality of the question, not skepticism, genuine inquiry. The specific quality of someone who had been managing Cersei's anger for 30 years and who had specific views on its manageability. "Not indefinitely," Weir said, "but long enough." She paused. "Cersei is watching the North. She has been watching the North since day one. She understands, at some level, what is coming. She is not ready to act on that understanding, yet the specific political position she holds requires her to be seen as the primary power, and aligning with the floating city is a concession she is not ready to make." She looked at the map. "But she will be. When the timeline makes the alternative clear, you're counting on Cersei Lannister to eventually do the rational thing," Stannis said. "I'm counting on Cersei Lannister to eventually do the survival thing," Weir said, "which is not always the same as the rational thing, but which, in this specific case, happens to align." Stannis looked at her. The specific quality of the look, something that in a different man would have been the beginning of a smile. "Extract Sansa Stark," he said. "Yes," Weir said. "And send her to the Eyrie," he said. "Yes," Weir said. "And convince Lysa Arryn to open the Bloody Gate," he said. "Sansa will do that," Weir said. "She won't need convincing. She'll understand what's needed." She paused. She's 17 years old, and she has been surviving King's Landing for 2 years. She understands what's needed. Stannis looked at the map. She's a child, he said. She was, Weir said. She isn't anymore. She looked at the map. None of them are. Stannis was quiet. He looked at the north, at the wall, at the specific patient mass beyond it. Day 500, he said. At the current rate, Weir said. And the rate is not staying current, he said. No, Weir said. He looked at the map. Build the geothermal system, he said. Move the Stark girl. Open the veil. He paused. What else? Jon Snow's training, Weir said. I need your support for what I'm going to ask of him. Stannis looked at her. He's a bastard, he said. He has no formal authority. He has the specific authority of someone who can do the thing that needs to be done, Weir said, which is the only authority that matters in the specific situation we're approaching. Stannis looked at the map. What are you going to ask of him? He said. Weir told him. The room was very quiet for a long time. Then Stannis said, He'll do it. Yes, Weir said. He's that kind of man, Stannis said. The specific quality of his voice, not admiration, exactly. The specific recognition quality of someone who had the specific kind of stubbornness that Jon Snow had and who could therefore identify it accurately. Yes, Weir said. Then build what you need to build, Stannis said. He stood. He looked at the map one final time. And tell McKay his 2 hours start tomorrow. He's already started, Weir said. Of course he has, Stannis said. The extraction day 52. The hardest part was not getting into the Red Keep. The hardest part was getting Sansa to leave. Not because she didn't want to. Tayla had sent the message 3 days prior. The specific, careful quality of a message delivered in the specific way that messages were delivered to people who were being watched, which was not delivered directly, but left in the specific location that had been agreed on in the specific brief exchange on the rooftop. Sansa had received it. Sansa had understood it. The hardest part was that Sansa had something she needed to do first. There is a girl, she said to Tayla, standing in the servants' passage behind the holdfast with the jumper waiting on the roof above them. She serves Tyrion Lannister, but she stopped. The specific quality of the stop. She is in danger, not from the north, from Cersei. She is going to be used against Tyrion, and then she is going to be killed, and she doesn't know it yet. Tayla looked at her. You want to bring her, Tayla said. I want her to have the choice, Sansa said. She doesn't know there's a choice. Nobody has told her there is one. She looked at Tayla. You told me there was one. On the roof. Tayla was quiet. The specific quality of the quiet understanding. The specific quality of understanding what was being said and why and what it required. How long? Tayla said. 20 minutes, Sansa said. I know where her room is. Tayla looked at the passage. At the roof above them. At the specific quality of a 20-minute deviation from an extraction timeline and what it cost and what it produced. 15, Tayla said. Sansa went. She came back at 14. Shay was behind her, the specific quality of a woman who had been woken from sleep and told that there was a flying ship on the roof and that she could come or stay, and who had, in the specific 14 minutes, decided with the specific, decisive quality of someone who understood the specific value of a choice when one was offered. She looked at the jumper. This is real, she said. Yes, Tayla said. And it flies, she said. Yes, Tayla said. Shay looked at it. All right, she said. They went up. The jumper lifted from the Red Keep at 0317. Sansa looked down at the city as it shrank at the specific quality of King's Landing from altitude, the fires, and the smell gone, just the shape of it. The specific contained quality of 1 million people in a small space rendered small from above. She did not look away. She looked at it until it was too small to distinguish from the dark. Then she looked north. The Eyrie, she said. The Eyrie, Tayla confirmed. Sansa looked at her hands. At the specific quality of her hands in the dim interior light of the jumper, the hands of someone who had been surviving for 2 years, in the specific, precise way of someone who had nothing but their own understanding, and who had been building the understanding every day. "What do I tell my aunt?" she said. "The truth," Taylor said. "All of it. The sensors, the army, the timeline." She paused. "Dr. Weir has prepared a full briefing package. Maps, projections. Everything Liza Aaron needs to see." "She won't want to see it," Sansa said. "She doesn't. She closed the veil because she wanted to keep Robin safe. She thinks the gates keep things out." She paused. "I'll need to tell her that the gates don't keep out what's coming." "Yes," Taylor said. "She won't believe me," Sansa said. "Not at first." "Show her the sensor feed," Taylor said. "Liv, the actual army, the actual numbers." She paused. "Nobody argues with the numbers after they've seen them." Sansa looked at the dark outside the jumper, at the specific quality of the world from altitude vast, cold, the specific scale of it that removed the specific comfortable distortions of ground-level perspective. "She'll be afraid," Sansa said. "Yes," Taylor said. "And frightened people sometimes do the right thing," Taylor said. "When the right thing is also the only thing." Sansa looked at her. The specific quality of the look measuring, the specific Sansa Stark quality of measuring something and finding it true and filing it in the specific careful way of someone who had been building a framework for a long time and who was adding to the framework deliberately. "You sound like her," Sansa said. "Like Dr. Weir," Taylor said. "Yes," Sansa said. Taylor looked at the dark. "I know," she said. And then, quietly, the specific quality of quietly, "She is worth sounding like." The jumper flew north. Below them, the world turned. Day 52 of 730. The building continued. The eerie day 55. The jumper landed on the Moon Door Terrace at dawn. Not the main gate. The main gate was the Bloody Gate, which was the specific point Weir was trying to open, and which you did not arrive at in the flying machine of the people who wanted you to open it. If you wanted the arrival to produce the opening rather than the specific defensive reaction of someone who felt cornered. The Moon Door Terrace was high enough that it required the jumper and therefore made the statement that the jumper made that the city could go where it chose, that gates were a specific kind of boundary, and that the city operated in the awareness of other kinds, while being far enough from the gate that it was not the gate. Sansa had suggested it. Taylor had looked at the map and said yes. Liza Aaron was on the terrace in 11 minutes. Not because she had been told they were coming. Weir had sent a raven 2 days prior, and the raven had received no response. The specific non-response of someone who had sealed herself in, and who was treating all external communication as the specific category of things that came from outside and that were therefore not to be trusted. But the jumper had been visible from the Erie's upper chambers for the full descent, and Liza Aaron was the specific kind of person who, when something happened that she had no framework for, came to look at it herself, rather than sending someone. She came out onto the terrace in a blue dress with her hair loose and Robin Aaron behind her, with his hand in hers, and 4 guards, who had the specific quality of guards who had been told to come and who were trying to look prepared for something they had no preparation for. She saw Sansa first. The specific quality of the seeing recognition, then something more complicated than recognition. The specific quality of someone seeing a face that was associated with a category of things that had been lost and that was now standing on the Moon Door Terrace in the early light, and that did not fit the category of lost because it was here. "Sansa," she said. "Aunt Liza," Sansa said. She crossed the terrace. She did not run the specific Sansa Stark quality of not running, of moving, with the specific deliberate quality of someone who had learned that how you moved was a statement, and who made the statement carefully. She crossed the terrace, and she took her aunt's hands, and she looked at her, and the look had the specific quality of someone who was doing 2 things simultaneously, being present in the reunion, genuinely, The specific real quality of someone who needed this, and who was letting herself need it, and also being present in the task, holding the thread of why she was here and what the next hour needed to produce. Both things at once. The specific Sansa Stark way. Lysa looked at the jumper, at Tayla standing next to it. "This is them," she said. "The floating city people." "Yes," Sansa said. "Aunt Lysa, I need you to see something. Will you come inside with me?" Lysa looked at the jumper, at Robin, at the guards. "What do they want?" she said. Not hostile, the specific, suspicious quality of someone who had been alone long enough that every external thing was first a potential threat and only later a potential other thing. "The same thing we want," Sansa said, "for Robin to still be here in 2 years." The specific quality of those words landing the specific direct quality of them, aimed at the specific thing that Lysa Arryn cared about above all other things. Not the realm, not duty, not the right thing. Robin, the specific name, the specific boy, standing behind her with his hand in hers. Lysa looked at her. "Come inside," Sansa said. They went inside. The briefing. Tayla set up the display in the Erie's main hall. Lysa sat with Robin on her knee. He was 8 years old, and he had the specific quality of an 8-year-old who had been kept from everything, and who was therefore fascinated by everything, who was looking at the holographic display with the specific, complete attention of someone for whom novelty was rare and therefore consuming. Tayla showed her the map first. The continental map with the army positions and the sensor overlay and the specific patient coverage of everything the city could see. She showed it at the scale that showed the whole continent, the wars in the south, the wall, the north. Lysa looked at the south, at the wars. "The Lannisters. Here," Tayla said. She pointed. "Stannis here. The Tyrell forces here. The remaining northern forces fragmented across the riverlands." She paused. "This is the current picture of the south." "We're safe here," Lysa said. "The Bloody Gate." Tayla moved the map. "North. The wall. Beyond it. This is what is coming," she said. She showed her the army of the dead. Not the processed version, not the specific managed quality of information that had been filtered for the recipient, the full sensor picture. The specific, complete quality of 47,000 dead things in formation beyond the wall, with the White Walkers in the second layer, and the Night King at the center, and the growth rate projected forward in the specific clinical language of a line on a graph that went in one direction. Lysa looked at it. She looked at it for a long time. Robin looked at it. "What are those?" Robin said. "They are the reason," Tayla said carefully, "that we need every living person to be ready." "The Vale Army," Lysa said. Her voice had the specific quality of someone who was processing something that was restructuring the framework she'd been operating from, not panic. The specific pre-panic stillness of someone whose framework was being restructured and who had not yet found the new one. "You want the Vale Army." "Yes," Tayla said. "The Bloody Gate keeps." "The Bloody Gate," Tayla said, "keeps out armies that are stopped by gates." She looked at Lysa. The specific quality of the look, not unkind, not the specific blunt quality of someone who was saying hard things without care. The specific quality of someone who was saying hard things with complete care, who understood the weight of them, who was saying them anyway, because the weight of not saying them was heavier. The army of the dead is not stopped by gates. It is stopped by the living, by enough living people in the right place at the right time with the right weapons. She paused. The Vale's 8,000 men are part of enough. Lysa looked at the display, at the numbers. Robin was very quiet on her knee. "He's 8 years old," Lysa said. The specific quality of her voice, not argument, the specific plain statement of the specific thing she was afraid of. "Yes," Tayla said. "If I send the army, if I open the gate, Robin is." "Robin is in the Eyrie," Tayla said. which the city will watch. Every hour, every day. She paused. Nothing reaches the Eyrie without us knowing. Nothing reaches the Eyrie without us responding. She looked at Lysa. I am not asking you to leave him unprotected. I am asking you to understand that protection is not the same as isolation. Lysa looked at the display, at the army of the dead, at the growth rate, at the line on the graph that went in one direction. Robin looked at the display. Mother, he said. Yes, my love, Lysa said. Those are a lot, he said. Yes, Lysa said. The lady said they needed help, he said. Lysa looked at him, at the specific quality of her looking at him, the specific complete quality of a mother looking at the specific face that was the reason for every decision she had made for 8 years, and finding in that face the specific thing that she had been trying to keep safe, and finding also that the face understood something that she had not let herself understand. Yes, Lysa said quietly. They do. Robin looked at the display. Then we should help, he said. Shouldn't we? The hall was very quiet. Sansa, standing at the edge of the room, did not speak. Teyla did not speak. Lysa looked at her son, at the display, at the specific quality of a decision that was being made, not in the language of politics or duty or advantage, but in the specific plain language of an 8-year-old who had looked at the thing directly and said the obvious thing. Yes, Lysa said. We should. She looked at Teyla. The army moves, she said, when you need them. Thank you, Teyla said. Lysa looked at the display one more time. Then she looked at Sansa. You knew he would say that, she said. Sansa looked at her. The specific quality of the look honest, the specific plain quality of someone who was not going to deny what was true. I hoped, Sansa said. Lysa looked at her nephew on her knee, at his small, serious face. He is very like his father, she said quietly. Nobody said anything. The display showed the army of the dead in the patient formation of 47,000 dead things waiting in the north, and the line on the graph going in one direction, and the countdown running, and the Vale army behind bloody. Gate that was, as of this morning, going to move. Day 55 of 730. The building continued. What the Night King did, day 60. He moved again. McKay flagged it at 0600. The specific alert quality of a threshold being crossed. The specific Night King behavior pattern that had been developing since day 83 of the expedition. And that was, each time it occurred, the specific response to something the expedition had done. The formation had shifted. Not the Night King's position within it. He had settled in the center and had not moved from the center since day 83, and the center was where he remained, the formation itself. The specific shape of it, the specific way 47,000 dead things were arranged in relation to each other and to the wall. It had tightened. The flanks had drawn in. McKay looked at the display. At the specific quality of the tightening, not defensive, the specific quality of a formation that was not defending itself, but that was consolidating, drawing resources toward the center, reducing the specific exposure of the extended formation in favor of the specific concentrated density of a tighter one. He ran the analysis. He ran it again. He sat back. Weir, he said. She was there in 4 minutes. She looked at the display. He's seen Melisandre's fire, McKay said. The misdirection, the northern assault, the Eastwatch flank, he's seen it. He's adjusting. He pointed at the flanks. He's drawing in the flanks because the false intelligence told him the threat was coming from the flank. That's what we wanted, Weir said. Yes, McKay said. It's working. He paused. The specific quality of the pause. It's also doing something we didn't plan for. Weir looked at him. The tighter formation, McKay said. The consolidation. He pulled up the secondary analysis. When the flanks draw in, when the outer formation compresses, the density of the white layer in front of the White Walkers increases. The path to the Night King, through the center, gets harder, Weir said. Gets significantly harder, McKay said. The misdirection is working, but the response to the misdirection is making the actual plan more difficult. He paused. We told him to look left. He's looking left. But looking left made him stand closer together. Weir looked at the display, at the formation, at the specific quality of an opponent who was responding to false information in exactly the way they had intended, and who was, in responding correctly to false information, inadvertently making the true problem harder. John, she said. Yes, McKay said. The path through the center is now. He ran the number. 40% more obstructed than when we built the original training simulation. Update the simulation, Weir said. Already done, McKay said. And tell John, she said. He's in Bay 3, McKay said. He's been in Bay 3 since 0500. Weir looked at the display, at the Night King, at 40%, at the countdown, day 60 of 730. At the specific quality of a building that was happening in both directions simultaneously, her side building toward the solution, the Night King's side building toward the problem, both sides adjusting, both sides responding, the specific quality of a conversation that was happening without words across 800 miles of frozen north, and that was, with each exchange, getting more precise. He's very good at this, she said. 8,000 years of practice, McKay said. Yes, Weir said. She looked at the display, at the army, at the wall, at the specific plain fact of what was coming and what was being built to meet it, and the specific distance between those two things and the countdown that was measuring it. Keep building, she said. Always, McKay said. The building continued. Arya Day 67. She found the jumper. Not the other way around. McKay had been tracking her since the twins. The specific small thermal signature of her moving north with the specific quality of movement that the sensors had learned to distinguish as Arya Stark, which was not the quality of someone traveling, but the quality of someone moving with direction and velocity, and the specific contained purpose of someone who had somewhere to be and who was not stopping. She had been with the Hound. The sensors had flagged the Hound on day 3, the specific large signature of a large man moving with the specific quality of someone who was not going anywhere in particular, but who was going away from everywhere in particular, the specific quality of someone who had made a decision about the South and who was implementing it. He had picked up the small signature somewhere east of the twins, or the small signature had acquired him. McKay's analysis suggested the latter. The jumper had been positioned in the valley ahead of their route, not in their path, not the specific confrontational quality of something placed where they would have to address it, off to the side, visible, present, in the specific way that Weir had authorized for first contacts, that were the specific kind of first contact that required the other party to feel like they had chosen the encounter rather than been subjected to it. The Hound saw it first. He stopped. He looked at it with a specific quality of the Hound, looking at things, the specific, complete assessment of a man who had been in enough situations that his first response to any new thing was the full threat evaluation. The specific, rapid calculation of size, position, exits, and the probability that the thing in front of him was going to require a sword. He put his hand on his sword. Arya walked past him. She walked toward the jumper. "What are you doing?" the Hound said. "Looking at it," Arya said. "It could be. It's not dangerous," Arya said. The specific quality of her voice, not bravado, not the performed fearlessness of someone who was managing fear by denying it. The specific plain quality of someone who had made an accurate assessment and was stating it. It's just sitting there. If it wanted to do something, it would have done it already. The Hound looked at it. At the specific quality of the jumper sitting in the valley, passive, present, the running lights on, in the specific, dim quality of something that was indicating occupancy without indicating threat. He did not put his sword away, but he followed her. Arya stopped 10 feet from the hatch. She looked at it. "I know you're watching," she said. "You've been watching since the twins." She paused. "You knew where we were going before we did." The hatch opened. Ronan stepped out. He looked at Arya. Arya looked at him. The specific quality of the mutual-looking two people who were each in their own specific way. The particular kind of person who processed threat and presence and intention in the specific, rapid, complete way of someone who had been in enough situations and who had, in the mutual looking, each completed the assessment and each arrived at the same conclusion, which was not safe exactly, but not a threat and interesting. "You're big," Arya said. "You're small," Ronan said. "I know," Arya said. "Where's the woman?" "Weir. I want to talk to Weir." Ronan looked at her. "She's at the city," he said. "Can you take me there?" Arya said. "Arya," the hound said. "He's not going to hurt us," Arya said. "Are you?" Ronan looked at her. "No," he said. "See," Arya said. The hound looked at Ronan, at the specific quality of Ronan, the size, the weapon, the specific quality of a man who moved, in the specific way of someone who had been at war for a long time, and who had the specific, dangerous quality of someone who was very good at it and who was not, in this moment, employing it. "She wants to go," the hound said finally. "She always goes." "Yes," Ronan said. "Is there food?" the hound said. "Yes," Ronan said. "Then I'm coming too," the hound said. Arya and Weir Day, 67, evening. She sat across from Weir, in the same conference room where Robb had sat, and where Stannis had sat, and where Davos had asked the honest questions, and where the map was always on the display, and where the North was always there. Arya looked at the map, at the army, at the numbers. She did not have the scale reaction, the specific quality of the no-scale reaction, not because she wasn't seeing it, but because Arya Stark's relationship with large, terrible things was the specific relationship of someone who had been in the direct presence of large, terrible things, and who had developed the specific practical orientation of someone who looked at large, terrible things and asked what you did about them rather than how large and terrible they were. "You know about Jon," she said. "Yes," Weir said. "He's at Castle Black," Arya said. "Yes," Weir said. "And you're working with him?" Arya said. "Yes," Weir said. Arya looked at the map, at Castle Black, at the specific distance between where she was and where her brother was not brother, the word she had been using internally since the twins, because the specific category of the family that was left had been reduced to the specific shortlist, and Jon was on it, and the word that fit the people on the list was the simple one. "I want to see him," she said. "I'll take you," Weir said. Arya looked at her. The specific quality of the look measuring, the specific Arya Stark quality of measuring that was different from the Sansa Stark quality of measuring, where Sansa measured by the specific careful method of accumulation, building the picture piece by piece with patient architecture, Arya measured by the specific direct method of looking at the center of the thing, the specific place where what was true was most visible, and reading it from there. She read Weir from the center. She found what was there. "You're not going to stop it yourself," Arya said. "The dead, you have the weapons, you have the flying ships, you could," she paused, "but you're not going to." "No," Weir said. "Because it has to be us," Arya said. "Because the living have to defend the living," Weir said. "We can help. We can give you everything we have that isn't a weapon. Information, technology, training, weapons that work." She paused. "But we can't fight it for you. Not because we don't want to, because if we fight it for you, then the world that comes after belongs to us, and it shouldn't." Arya looked at her. "That's a very principled position," Arya said. The specific quality of the statement, not sarcasm exactly. The specific quality of someone who was 17 years old and who had been surviving for 2 years and who had a specific complicated relationship with principled positions and what they cost. "Yes," Weir said. It is. People died for it, Arya said. Yes, Weir said. They did. And you still hold it? Arya said. Yes, Weir said. Arya looked at the map, at the army, at Jon's position at Castle Black. At Sansa's position, she had been told Sansa was at the Eyrie, and the specific quality of that information arriving was the specific quality of information that changed the picture significantly and that she was still processing. The changed picture. What do you need from me? Arya said. Weir looked at her. The specific quality of the look, not the assessing quality of someone who was determining what to ask. The specific quality of someone who had already determined it and who was looking at the person she was asking it of and making the final confirmation that the asking was right. Your specific skills, Weir said, are unusual. I'm good with a sword, Arya said. More than that, Weir said. She paused. We've been watching you for 2 months. The way you move, the way you assess, the way you operate in situations that most people don't come back from. She looked at the map. The Night King has lieutenants, White Walkers. They are not vulnerable to the same approach that Jon is going to use on the Night King. They require a different kind of engagement. Arya looked at the map. At the White Walker positions, in the second formation layer. You want me to go through the second layer, she said. I want you to train for it, Weir said. Alongside Jon, alongside Shepard. I want the two of you to build something together that, she paused, that the Night King can't anticipate. Because he's never seen it before. Because it's never been tried before. She looked at Arya. Two people operating in the same formation from completely different angles. One going for the Night King. One clearing the path. Arya looked at the map, at the army, at the specific quality of the problem laid out in the specific, complete language of sensor data, everything visible, everything measurable, the specific, full picture of the thing that needed to be walked into. Jon doesn't know about this, she said. Not yet, Weir said. He's going to try to tell me not to, Arya said. Yes, Weir said. He's going to use the specific voice he uses when he thinks he's being responsible, Arya said. Yes, Weir said. It doesn't work on me, Arya said. I know, Weir said. Arya looked at the map. At the army of the dead, in the specific patient formation of something that had been doing this for 8,000 years and that had never been approached from 2 directions simultaneously. How do I get to Castle Black? Arya said. Ronan will take you in the morning, Weir said. Tonight, Arya said. Weir looked at her. The specific quality of the look finding what was there. The specific Arya Stark thing that was there. The specific quality of someone who did not stop moving and who had, in the course of 2 years of not stopping, arrived at the place where the next thing was. Tonight, Weir said. She picked up her radio. Ronan, she said. Yeah, Ronan said. Ready the jumper, she said. Already fueled, Ronan said. The specific quality of the statement, not prescience, the specific Ronan quality of having been in enough situations to know how situations moved and having prepared accordingly. Arya stood. She looked at Weir. Tell me one thing, she said. Yes, Weir said. Jon, Arya said. Is he? She stopped. The specific quality of the stop, the specific thing behind it, the specific thing she was asking that was not about the training or the plan or the army of the dead, but about her brother. The specific, simple question of someone who had been moving towards someone for 2 years and who was now close enough that the question was real. Is he all right? Weir looked at her. He's the most prepared person I've ever seen for the hardest thing I've ever asked anyone to do, she said, and he doesn't know it yet. She paused. He'll know when you get there. Arya looked at her. Then she went. Outside Bay 2, Ghost was waiting. He had been waiting since the jumper landed, the specific quality of Ghost, present and patient and knowing. The specific, complete animal quality of something that had felt a particular person's approach from a very long distance and that had been here since. Arya stopped. She looked at Ghost. The Ghost looked at her. Then he crossed the distance between them in 3 steps, and he put his enormous head against her chest, and she put her arms around his neck, and she held on in the specific quality of someone who had been moving for a very long time, and who had just, for the first time, in a very long time, stopped. Just for a moment. Just long enough. Then she straightened. She looked at the jumper. "Come on then," she said to Ghost. Ghost looked at the jumper. "He won't fit," Ronan said, from the hatch. "He'll fit," Arya said. He did not fit. He fit anyway. The jumper lifted into the northern night, and below it, the city glowed in the shivering sea. And ahead of it, Castle Black waited at the base of the wall. And somewhere inside it, Jon Snow was in Bay 3, running the simulation for the prom. 43rd time, and the army of the dead was beyond the wall in its tighter formation, and the countdown was running, and the building continued, and 2 Starks were, for the first time since the world had come apart, moving toward each other. Day 67 of 730. The building continued. Jon and Arya Day 680200. He was in Bay 3 when the jumper landed. He heard it, the specific quality of the jumper's landing tone that he had learned in the first week of training, the specific acoustic signature of the repulsors cutting, and the landing struts taking the weight, a sound that lived in the low register and that you felt as much as heard. He had been in the simulation for 4 hours, and he had stopped for water twice, and he had not stopped for anything else, and the simulation had the specific quality it always had at 0200, which was the specific quality of the formation being completely real. In a way, it was not at 0800 when he was fresh, and the distance between real and rendered was more visible. At 0200 it was real. He was standing in the center of the formation, with White Walker positions in the second layer, and the Night King at depth, and the specific 40% denser weight layer between him and everything he needed to reach. And he was running the approach for the 43rd time, and finding the 43rd time the same thing he found every time, which was that the approach had a problem at the second layer transition, and that the problem was not solvable from one direction. McKay had told him 3 days ago. "You need a second vector," McKay had said. "The second layer transition requires a simultaneous approach from 2 angles. One White Walker turns toward one threat, the other White Walkers adjust to cover, and in the adjustment there is a gap, but only if the 2 threats are simultaneous. If they're sequential, the gap doesn't open. I can't be in 2 places," Jon had said. "No," McKay had said. He had not said anything else. He had known McKay was not saying something else. He had not pushed. He had run the simulation 43 more times instead. Now he heard the jumper land, and he heard something else. The specific sound of Ghost, the specific quality of Ghost's movement, which was not like any other movement in Castle Black, because Ghost did not move in the specific careful quality of something that was navigating a space, but in the specific complete quality of something that owned whatever space it was. The Ghost was in the corridor. Ghost was not supposed to be in the corridor during simulation hours. Ghost did not care about simulation hours. Jon ended the simulation. He walked to the bay door. He opened it. Ghost came through it at speed, not running. The specific Ghost quality of moving, with the specific intention of going somewhere and going there directly. And he went past Jon and turned and came back and stood next to Jon and looked at the jumper hatch, and Jon looked at the jumper hatch, and the hatch opened, and Arya came out. She looked exactly like herself. The specific quality of Arya Stark that was unchanged by 2 years of everything, not the same girl, not the specific comfortable thought that nothing had touched her, clearly touched. Clearly marked by all of it in the specific way that people were marked by what they had moved through. But the specific quality at the center of her, the thing that was hers, the specific Arya thing, intact, present. Here. Jon looked at her. She looked at him. Neither of them spoke for a moment. Then she said, "You're taller." "You're not," he said. She crossed the bay floor, and he went to meet her, and she hit him with the specific, complete quality of a person who had been moving towards someone for 2 years, and who was not going to stop moving when she reached them, but was going to keep moving into them, into the specific solid fact of them being here, and real and alive. He held on. The specific quality of held, not the performed quality of reunion, not the specific careful quality of something being managed. The specific plain quality of two people who had been moving toward each other for a long time and who had arrived. The ghost sat next to them. The specific quality of ghost sitting next to them, present, patient, present. The specific, complete, animal quality of something that had been waiting for this, and that was now simply in it. They stood like that for a while. Then Arya said into his shoulder, "She told me about the plan." "Weir," Jon said. "Yes," Arya said. Jon was quiet. "You're going to tell me not to," Arya said. "I know better," Jon said. She pulled back and looked at him. The specific quality of the look finding him, the specific reading quality of Arya reading the person she knew best at the center of the person he had become, finding both things, finding them compatible. McKay said, "I need a second vector," Jon said. "I know," Arya said. "At the second layer transition," he said. "I know," she said. "You've already looked at the simulation," he said. "Ranon showed me on the way," she said. "The updated formation, the 40% density increase." She paused. "You've been running it for 4 hours tonight. 43 times total," he said. "And the problem at the second layer?" she said. "Every time," he said. She looked at the bay, at the space where the simulation had been running. "Show me," she said. "It's 0200, he said. "I know what time it is," she said. Jon looked at her. At the specific quality of Arya at 0200 after 2 years of not stopping, having just arrived at the specific place where the next thing was not tired. Not the specific careful quality of someone who needed to rest before they could begin. Present, ready. The specific Arya quality of being exactly as available as the moment required. He turned to the console. "McKay," he said. "I'm awake," McKay said over the speaker. He was always awake. "Reset the simulation," Jon said. 2 entry points. A pause. "Finally," McKay said. The simulation loaded. The army of the dead filled Bay 3 in the specific, complete quality of the rendered formation. 47,000 dead things, and the White Walkers, and the Night King at depth, and the denser weight layer, and the specific problem at the second layer transition that had been a problem for one person, and that was, as of this moment, a problem for 2. Arya walked into it. She walked to the second layer. She stood in it, and she turned, and she looked at the full formation from the inside, in the specific way that Jon had stood in it on day 1, not toward the edges, toward the center, toward the Night King's position. The White Walkers turned to face the primary threat, she said. "That's Jon, coming through the front." "Yes," Jon said. "And when they turn, they leave the flank of the second layer exposed," she said. "For approximately." She looked at the formation. 4 seconds. 3.8, McKay said over the speaker. 4 seconds, Arya said. To go from the flank through the second layer to the Night King's position. 3.8, McKay said. "I'm faster than 3.8, Arya said. The bay was quiet. Jon looked at her, in the middle of the simulation. In the middle of the formation, at the specific quality of his sister standing in the thing that they were going to have to walk into, and looking at it with the specific complete quality of someone who had found the answer in the thing itself, not around it, not away from it, in it. "You'd have to come from outside the formation entirely," Jon said. "Not through the front. The flank approach, you'd have to be outside and moving before I engage the front." "The timing." "We practice the timing," Arya said. "If the timing is wrong." "We practice until it isn't," she said. John looked at the Night King's position, at 47,000, at the 3.8 seconds. "McKay," he said. "Yes," McKay said. "Build the two-person simulation," John said. "Full formation, 2 entry points front and flank, timing variable so we can adjust." "I've been building it for 3 days," McKay said. "Waiting for you to ask?" The specific quality of the statement, the specific McKay quality of having done the thing before being asked because the thing was obviously going to be needed and waiting was inefficient. John looked at Arya. Arya looked at John. The specific quality of the mutual look, not the reunion look, not the specific held quality of 200 inches the bay corridor, the specific working look. The specific quality of two people who had found each other and who were now, in the specific plain way of the Stark children, getting to work. "From the beginning," Arya said. "From the beginning," John said. The simulation loaded. Outside the bay, the wall rose in the dark, enormous and cold and old, and north of it, the dead waited, and south of it 2 people began the specific work of learning to do the thing that had never been done together, the specific patient work of repetition and adjustment and the finding of the timing, the 3.8 seconds that everything was going to depend on. Day 68 of 730. The building continued. McKay's log day 70. Personal record. Day 70 of the 2-year countdown. Current status. Geothermal project. Underway at Dragonstone. Excavation began on day 61. On schedule. The island's geology is cooperating in the specific way that geology cooperates when you know what you're doing, which I do. Dragon glass processing. 4,300 units completed. Yield rate is 18% above projection. The resonance-optimized cutting is producing the specific crystalline edge profile I calculated. They're better than raw dragon glass. Significantly better. Jon Snow, 48 simulation runs completed. The 2-person simulation launched day 68. Initial timing error, approximately 2.4 seconds. Arya, arriving too early. The White Walkers not yet committed to the turn. Adjusting. They'll find it. Arya Stark, unexpected asset. The specific quality of her movement in the simulation is, I don't have a comparison. She moves like someone who has been thinking about movement as a technical problem for her entire life and who has solved most of the problems. Shepard watched the second session and said nothing for 4 minutes. Shepard not saying anything for 4 minutes is the specific equivalent of most people saying a great deal. Melisandre's misdirection. The Night King's formation has now tightened twice in response to the false intelligence. The flanks are 40% denser than day 83. The front is 62% denser. The path to the Night King is significantly harder than when we started. This is the cost of the misdirection. It was always going to be the cost. The misdirection makes the false approach harder and the real approach harder simultaneously. I knew this. I built it into the calculation. The real approach is still viable. 3.8 seconds is still viable. Weir is doing what Weir does, which is holding the complete picture with both hands and not dropping any of it and not letting the weight of any part of it be less than it is. I have worked with a lot of scientists. I have worked with a lot of leaders. End quote. The intersection of those 2 categories is smaller than people think. The intersection that also includes the specific quality of being able to sit with things that are heavy and true and unresolved and continue working is smaller still. She is at that intersection. The war in the south is ongoing. Stannis holds the wall with 4,000 men and Tormund's free folk. The Vale army is moving. The Bloody Gate opened on day 58. 8,000 men. It will take them 60 days to reach the staging position north of Mot Cailin. The remaining northern forces scattered, leaderless, but present. They need a name to follow. That problem has not been solved yet. Sansa Stark is at the Eyrie. She is I have watched the sensor feed. She is running the Erie, not Lysa Arryn. Sansa, in the specific, careful, quiet way of someone who is doing a thing and who is not announcing that they are doing it. She has reorganized the household supply chain, opened communication with the remaining northern lords, and begun a correspondence with Davos Seaworth that McKay analysis suggests is the most politically sophisticated correspondence currently active in Westeros. She is 17 years old. The Night King moved again last night. Small adjustment. The rear formation compressed by approximately 3%. He's consolidating. He's been consolidating for 30 days. Each time we do something, he consolidates. He is not afraid. He is cautious. There is a difference. Caution is rational. Caution means he is calculating. Calculating means he can be wrong. We are building toward the moment he is wrong. Day 70 of 730. The building continues. The war comes to Weir Day 89. Cersei sent a ship. Not the spy ship that had been and gone on day 40 of the expedition. The specific reconnaissance quality of something that looked and reported and returned. This was different. This was a royal galley with Lannister banners and a specific diplomatic quality, not a warship, not the specific threatening posture of someone arriving to make a point with force, the specific careful posture of someone arriving to make a point with words, which was, in Weir's experience, frequently more dangerous. The envoy's name was Qyburn. Shepard flagged him on the sensor feed the moment he stepped off the galley at the Shivering Sea anchorage. The specific quality of Qyburn that the sensors captured, and that was not in the thermal data or the movement signature, but in the specific accumulation of what they knew about him, which was considerable. Weir had been building the King's Landing file for 90 days. Qyburn was in it extensively. He's not a soldier, Shepard said. No, Weir said. He's not a lord, Shepard said. No, Weir said. What is he? Shepard said. He's what Cersei sends when she wants information and leverage simultaneously, Weir said. He observes. He records. He finds the specific thing in a situation that is useful, and he brings it back. She paused. He's very good at it. Should we? We met him, Weir said. We give him what we want Cersei to have, and we are very careful about which things those are. The jumper brought him across. He sat in the rear of the jumper with the specific quality of someone who was cataloging everything, not obviously, not the specific performative quality of someone who wanted you to know they were watching. The specific quiet, complete quality of someone whose watching was so habitual it was invisible. He looked at the jumper's interior, at the console, at Shepard's hands on the controls, at the pier as they approached. He did not speak. Weir met him on the pier. She extended her hand. He took it with the specific quality of someone who was, in the taking, reading the hand, the specific, complete tactile assessment of a man who understood that everything was information. Dr. Qyburn, she said. Dr. Weir, he said. His voice had the specific quality of someone who had decided before arriving what tone the meeting required and who was implementing it precisely, warm, collegial. The specific tone of two professionals meeting. I have heard a great deal about you, and I am about you, she said. Come inside. What Cersei wanted. He said it in the conference room. He said it after the specific careful protocol of the opening the pleasantries that were not pleasantries but information exchanges. The specific professional quality of two people who understood that everything said in the first 10 minutes of a meeting was positioning, and who were both positioning, and who both knew the other was positioning, and who were, in the knowing, finding each other's edges. The Queen Regent, Qyburn said, wishes to understand the nature of your commitment. To what? Weir said. To the living, Qyburn said. He paused. The specific quality of the pause, not dramatic, the specific functional pause of someone who is placing a word carefully. The Queen Regent has been reviewing your activities over the past 90 days. The Free Folk, Stannis, The Stark children. He looked at her. The veil. Yes, Weir said. You have been building, he said. Yes, Weir said. An alliance, he said. A coalition, Weir said. There is a difference. Illuminate it, he said. An alliance has a political dimension, Weir said. It creates obligation between parties. It shifts the balance of power. It produces outcomes that favor some parties over others. She paused. A coalition has a single purpose. When the purpose is achieved, the coalition ends. Nobody owes anybody anything. Nobody has gained advantage over anyone. Qburn looked at her. The specific quality of the look assessing, the specific complete quality of someone who was determining whether what had just been said was true. The Queen Regent is not in the coalition, he said. Not yet, Weir said. She is fighting a war, he said. Yes, Weir said. Her energies are committed, he said. I understand that, Weir said. I'm not asking her to stop fighting her war. I'm asking her to understand what comes after it. She turned the display to the north. Whether she wins or loses, this is coming. And when it arrives, the outcome of the war she is currently fighting will be irrelevant, Qburn said. Yes, Weir said. Qburn looked at the display, at the army of the dead, at the numbers. He was quiet for a long time. The specific quality of the quiet, not processing the display. He had processed it in the first 30 seconds. Processing what it meant for the specific situation he had been sent to assess, and the specific message he had been sent to deliver, and the specific relationship between those two things, and what he was going to take back. The Queen Regent, he said finally, would like to know what joining the coalition requires. Nothing yet, Weir said. Acknowledgement that it exists. Awareness of the timeline. A channel of communication that is open when the time comes. And when the time comes, he said. She sends the Lannister army north, Weir said. Under her own command, her own flag, her own terms. Nobody takes anything from her. She remains exactly what she is. She paused. She just points it north instead of south. Qburn looked at her. She will want something, he said. In return, she'll want her children safe, Weir said. I can give her that. Whatever else she wants, we negotiate when the time comes. You're very confident about the negotiation, he said. I'm confident that when the dead are at the Trident, Weir said, the specific value of what I'm offering will be self-evident. Qburn looked at the display, at the wall, at the army beyond it, at the growth rate. She won't come willingly, he said. Not until she has to. I know, Weir said. I'm not asking her to come willingly. I'm asking you to take back a message that means she comes at all. She looked at him. There is a difference between someone who comes because they understand and someone who comes because they must. Both are useful. Only one arrives in time. Qburn looked at her. The specific quality of the look, something in it that was not the cataloging quality, not the professional assessment quality, the specific quality of someone who had been in the business of manipulation and intelligence for 30 years, and who was, in this moment, sitting across from someone who was not in that business, and who was therefore doing it completely differently, and who was, in doing it differently, being more effective. You are a remarkable woman, he said. I'm a practical one, Weir said. In my experience, Qburn said, that is the same thing. He looked at the display one final time. I will convey your message, he said, with my full recommendation that it be heard. Thank you, Weir said. Don't thank me, he said. I convey what is true. What she does with it is her own affair. He paused. It has always been her own affair. He stood. He looked around the conference room at the walls, at the technology, at the specific quality of the place. That was not a throne room, and not a war tent, and not any of the specific rooms where power was usually exercised. This place, he said, the city, he paused. It is the most significant thing that has happened to this world in 8,000 years. Yes, Weir said. And you are not using it, he said. Not the way it could be used. No, Weir said. Why, he said. She looked at him. Because the world that comes after has to belong to the people who live in it, she said, not to us. Qyburn looked at her. The specific quality of the look, something in it that was under the cataloging and the professional assessment and the 30 years of Cersei Lannister, the specific recognizable quality of someone who had just heard something true. I will remember that, he said. Good, she said. She walked him back to the pier. The timing day, 97. They found it on the 97th day, not in the simulation in the training room, the specific physical space where Shepard had built the ground-level equivalent of the simulation, the specific mat-covered room where Jon and Arya ran the choreography of the approach at full speed, with Ronan standing in for the Night King's position and 2 of Stannis' best soldiers standing in for the White Walker. Second layer, and the timing running on McKay's display overhead. 3.8 seconds. They had been running it for 29 days. The first week, the timing error had been 2.4 seconds. The second week, it was 1.1. The third week, it was 0.6. The fourth week, it was 0.3. On day 97, in the 41st run of the morning session, Jon came through the front at the specific pace they had built together over 29 days, and the 2 soldiers turned to face him in the specific choreographed way of the White Walker's second layer committing to the primary threat. And Arya came off the flank at the specific angle they had found together over 29 days, and she reached Ronan's position in 3.6 seconds. 3.6. 0.2 inside the window. She stopped. She looked at Jon. Jon looked at her. Shepard, at the wall, looked at his stopwatch. 3.6, he said. The room was quiet. The specific quality of the quiet, not celebration, not the specific performed quality of a milestone being acknowledged. The specific plain quality of something that had been worked toward for 29 days arrived in the specific ordinary way of things that were worked toward, which was without fanfare in the middle of a session that had 40 more runs scheduled. Again, Jon said. Jon Shepard said. I want to run it again, Jon said. I want to know it wasn't once. Arya was already resetting to her starting position. Shepard looked at them. At the specific quality of both of them, the specific plain working quality, the specific stark quality of treating the milestone as a data point and the data point as a reason to keep working rather than a reason to stop. Reset, Shepard said. They ran it again. 3.5, and again. 3.4, and again. 3.6, 3.5, 3.4, 3.4, 3.3. Shepard watched the numbers. At the specific quality of numbers that were no longer variable in the wrong direction, that were settling, that were finding the specific stable range of something that had been practiced enough that the body knew it without the mind having to direct it, the specific quality of something becoming automatic. All right, Shepard said. Stop. They stopped. He looked at them. You have it, he said. Jon looked at Arya. Arya looked at Jon. The specific quality of the mutual look, finding each other in it. The specific thing that was between them, that was not the reunion quality of day 68, but the specific working quality of 29 days of building something together. The specific knowledge quality of 2 people who had been in the same problem from different angles, and who had, in the working of it, built the specific knowledge of each other that you only built by working. We have it, Arya said. Don't get comfortable with it, Shepard said. We run it every day until the day we need it. You don't let it go. You don't miss a session. You don't. We know, Jon said. Every day, Shepard said. Every day, Jon said. The ghost was outside the training room. He always was. The building continued. Day 97 of 730. The Northern Lord's Day, 104. The ravens came from Sansa. Not all at once, the specific patient quality of a campaign that understood its own sequencing, that understood You did not send all the ravens at once, because all the ravens at once produced the specific overwhelming quality of a demand, rather than the specific careful quality of an invitation, and that the northern lords, who were still alive, and still armed, and still present in their keeps, had been through enough, that the difference between a demand and an invitation was the difference between a closed door and an open one. She sent them one at a time. Over 11 days, Weir watched the correspondence on the sensor feed, not reading the ravens themselves. She did not have the specific capacity to intercept ravens in flight, but reading the responses in the specific, indirect way that sensor data could read them, the movement of people and horses and small groups between keeps, the specific pattern of people being set in motion by words. "She's good," McKay said. He was watching the same feed. "Yes," Weir said. "She's not asking them to do anything yet," McKay said. "She's just talking to them." "She's reminding them they exist," Weir said. "That there are still northern lords. That the north is still a thing." She paused. After the Red Wedding, the specific quality of what the north needed first was not a plan. It was the reminder that there was still a north to plan for. McKay looked at the feed, at the specific pattern of motion it was showing. "She's going to want them to meet," he said. "Yes," Weir said. "Where?" McKay said. "Somewhere that isn't anyone's seat," Weir said. "Somewhere neutral. Somewhere that doesn't make one lord bigger than another by being chosen." She paused. "She'll think of something." She did. On day 104, a raven arrived at Atlantis. For Weir, from Sansa Stark, the raven said, "The northern lords will meet at the neck. Day 120. I would like the city's representative present, not to speak, to be seen, to let them understand what they are deciding for." Weir read it. She looked at the display. At the countdown, day 104 of 730. She wrote back, "We will be there." She looked at the map, at the neck, at the specific geography of it, the marshes, the causeways, Moat Cailin at its southern end, the specific ancient quality of a place that had been the boundary between the north and the south for 10,000 years, and that was, therefore, for a meeting of northern lords, the specific right place. Sansa had thought of something. "Who do we send?" McKay said. Weir looked at the map. "Taylor," she said. "And Jon." "Jon's in training," McKay said. "Jon's a Stark," Weir said. "He doesn't have to say anything. He just has to be there, in the room, with the northern lords who lost everything at the Red Wedding." She paused. "His presence is the argument." McKay looked at the map, at the neck. "They're going to want to declare him something," he said. "Yes," Weir said. "And he's going to refuse," McKay said. "Probably," Weir said. "But refusal in the right room, at the right moment, is also a kind of leadership." She paused. "The lords will understand that too." McKay looked at her. The specific McKay look, the specific quality of filing something that was being done well without commentary, because commentary would slow it down. He turned back to his console. Dragonstone, the geothermal, progress day, 108. The hole was enormous, not in the specific comfortable way of something that was large, in the specific geological way of something that had gone deep enough that the specific quality of deep was no longer metaphorical but physical, that you stood at the edge of it, and the thermal signature of the Earth's interior was a presence rather than an abstraction. McKay stood at the edge of it. He looked down. "Deeper," he said. The Dragonstone foreman, a man named Harwick, who had been managing mining operations for Stannis for 12 years and who had, in the first 3 days of working with McKay, gone through the specific complete journey from professional skepticism to professional conversion that people went through when they worked with McKay long enough to see that the things he said would work, worked, looked at the depth gauge. "We're at 43 meters, Harwick said. "We need 60, McKay said. "The eastern wall is showing stress fractures at—" "I reinforced the eastern wall on day 3, McKay said. "The stress fractures are cosmetic." They're in the specific superficial layer of the rock that I told you was going to show cosmetic fractures because the composition is. He stopped. He looked at Harwick. Trust the engineering. The men are nervous about the depth, Harwick said. Tell them the engineering is right, McKay said. Is it? Harwick said. McKay looked at him. Have I been wrong yet? McKay said. Harwick looked at the hole, at the specific quality of the hole. Enormous, deep, precisely positioned in the specific location McKay had marked on day 61, with the specific, complete confidence of someone who had done the geological survey and who knew exactly where the volcanic substrate was closest to the Grather surface, and exactly how far you had to go to reach the specific thermal gradient that the relay required. No, Harwick said, you haven't. Then trust the engineering, McKay said. Harwick nodded. He went back to the men. McKay looked at the hole, at the specific quality of the progress 43 meters in 47 days. The relay components were being fabricated in Atlantis's machine shop. The specific ancient technology adjacent components that McKay had designed from first principles, because there were no ancient manuals for geothermal relay construction on a world that didn't have a ZPM infrastructure, and that required the specific creative engineering of someone who understood the underlying principles well enough to build a new application from them. He had the components. He had the hole. He needed 17 more meters. He looked at the thermal readings, at the specific quality of what 60 meters was going to give him, the specific temperature gradient, the specific pressure, the specific output that fed into the relay, that fed into the power conduit that ran under the shivering sea floor to Atlantis's secondary power systems, and that would, when it was operational, extend the city's functional power life from day 350 to day 840. 110 days past the end of the countdown. Enough margin to finish what needed to be finished. Deeper, he said again, to nobody in particular. He climbed back up from the edge. He went to the fabrication tent. He worked. What Melisandre saw day 112. She came to Atlantis at dawn. Not summoned. She came on her own. The specific quality of someone who had been watching the fire for 3 nights running and who had seen something that required the specific conversation that was only possible in person and that could not be sent in a raven. She found McKay in the lab. He was always in the lab. You need to see this, she said. McKay looked at her. Show me, he said. She described it. The specific quality of her describing it, not the vague language of vision, not the specific comfortable imprecision that prophecy usually clothed itself in. She had been working with McKay for 40 days. She had learned that McKay required precision, and she had found, in the finding of precision, that precision was available, that the fire's images were precise if you looked at them precisely. That vagueness was a choice the seer made, not a property of the vision. She had chosen not to be vague. She described exactly what she had seen. McKay listened. He did not interrupt the specific quality of McKay not interrupting, which was rarer than the specific quality of McKay interrupting, and which therefore indicated the specific level of his attention, which was complete. When she finished, he was quiet for 43 seconds. She knew because she counted. Then he said, "The Night King isn't waiting for the wall." "No," she said. "He's going around it," McKay said. "East," she said. "The shivering sea, when it freezes." McKay looked at the display, at the wall, at the shivering sea to its east. At the specific geography of the situation, the wall ran from the western mountains to the eastern coast, and where it ended, the shivering sea began, and the shivering sea in deep winter froze, and a frozen sea was not a barrier. It was a road. "When does the shivering sea freeze?" McKay said. He was already pulling the meteorological data. "In the vision," Melisandre said, "the winter is deep, deeper than any in living memory. The long winter," McKay said. "Yes," she said. He looked at the data, at the current temperature projections. At the specific rate of winter's deepening, which was not the natural rate of seasonal change, but the specific accelerated rate of the long winter that the army of the dead carried with it, the specific cold of their presence that was not weather but something older than weather. He ran the projection. He ran it again. He sat very still. "Weir," he said over his radio. "Yes," she said. "The wall," he said. "It doesn't matter." A pause. "Come to the lab," he said. She was there in 3 minutes. He showed her the projection. She looked at it, at the shivering sea, at the freeze line. At the specific date, the projection produced not day 500, not the wall pressure date. Earlier, much earlier. Day 380, she said. At current projection, McKay said, plus or minus 30 days. Weir looked at the map, at the eastern coast, at the specific quality of a situation that had just changed its shape, not the threat, not the scale of the threat, but the direction, the specific angle from which everything was going to arrive, which was not the angle they had been building toward. She did not panic. The specific quality of Weir, not panicking, not the performed quality of someone suppressing panic. The specific plain quality of someone whose relationship with large, terrible information was to process it completely and then determine what it changed and what it didn't, and then move. "What doesn't change?" she said. "John," McKay said. "Arya, the timing, the Night King, still dies, the same way, 17 degrees, 3 centimeters, left of center. The approach is harder, because the formation will be moving, rather than static. But the mechanism is identical." He paused. "The coalition, the Veil, the Free Folk, Stannis, all of it is still needed." "What changes?" she said. "The staging position," McKay said. "The wall is not the engagement point. The eastern coast is." He pulled up the map. "Here. Hint. The coast flattens here, the specific geography that the army of the dead would use to come off the ice. It's the only viable landing point on this stretch for a force that size." He paused. "It is also." He zoomed out. Weir looked at where he was pointing, at the specific location on the eastern coast. At what was there. "It's 2 miles from Atlantis," she said. "Yes," McKay said. The lab was very quiet. "He's coming here," Weir said. "He's coming to the coast," McKay said. "Whether he knows Atlantis is here, whether the city is the specific reason, he paused. "I think he knows. I think he's known since we arrived. I think the specific choice of the eastern coast, the specific landing point, he's been planning this since day 1, Weir said. "Since before day 1, McKay said. "Since before we crashed, the long winter was always going to freeze the shivering sea. We arrived in the specific location that the sea was going to freeze toward." He paused. "Or he adjusted when we arrived. I can't tell which." Weir looked at the map. At Atlantis. At the coast. At the army of the dead and the frozen sea between them and the specific trajectory of something that had been pointing at this location for a very long time. "The shield," she said. "Full power," McKay said. "When the army arrives, I want a full shield, which means the geothermal relay needs to be operational before day 380. He paused. "I need to go faster." "Go faster," Weir said. "I need more men at Dragonstone," he said. "You'll have them," she said. "And I need..." He stopped. He looked at the map, at the specific quality of something that he was working through. "I need to tell Stannis that the eastern cliff face of his island is going to have a power conduit running through it that is also going to be, in approximately 270 days, on the front line of the largest military engagement in the history of this world." "I'll tell Stannis," Weir said. "He'll want to be there," McKay said. "Yes," Weir said. "Of course he will," McKay said. Weir looked at the map, at the coast, at the 2 miles, at the specific quality of a situation that had just told her something she had not known and that had, in the telling, confirmed something she had suspected. which was that the Night King was not simply a force moving in a direction, but a specific intelligence that had been calculating for 8,000 years and that had been, since the moment Atlantis arrived, calculating with Atlantis in the picture. "He knows about Jon," she said. McKay looked at her. "He doesn't know the specific plan," he said. "He knows there's a plan," she said. "He's known since the children's cave, since McKay went to the children and started asking precise questions. He felt it on the network." She paused. And he's adjusted. Every adjustment he's made, the formation tightening, the position change, the shivering sea route, it's all the same calculation. He's making Jon's approach as hard as possible while also bringing the battle to the place where the city is most exposed. "He's going to try to take out the city," McKay said, "before Jon reaches him. He's going to try to do both simultaneously," Weir said. "The whites at the coast, the shield under pressure, us managing the breach, and Jon fighting through the formation in the chaos of all of that. That's why it has to be Jon and Arya together," McKay said. "Not because one person can't make the approach, because in that specific chaos, with the shield under pressure and the breach ongoing, one person doesn't have enough cover," Weir said. "Yes," McKay said. "Two people," Weir said. "Two people," McKay said. Weir looked at the map, at the coast, at Atlantis, at the countdown. Day 112 of 730. She picked up her radio. "Shepard," she said. "Yeah," Shepard said. "The plan changed," she said. A pause. "How much?" he said. "Enough," she said. "Come to the lab." He came. The building continued. What was built day? 730. The last day of the countdown arrived the way all last days arrived. Quietly. McKay's display had been running since day one, the specific plain number of it, visible every morning from the lab door. The specific honest thing that he had put there on day one, because looking at it directly was more useful than not looking at it. And that had been there every day since, and that was, this morning, showing a number that was not a countdown anymore. 0. He looked at it for a long time. Then he changed it. Not to 0 to the current tactical display, the specific live feed of the eastern coast and the shivering sea, and the specific quality of what the shivering sea looked like this morning, which was frozen. Completely frozen. The specific gray-white of a sea that had become a road. In the specific way that the long winter made roads out of water. The army of the dead was on the ice. They had been on the ice for 11 days. Moving south, moving toward the coast, moving toward Atlantis. What had been built in 730 days. The geothermal relay at Dragonstone had been operational since day 341, 9 days ahead of McKay's revised deadline. The specific quality of a deadline being beaten that was not celebrated because there was no time to celebrate, and because McKay's relationship with Met deadlines was the specific relationship of someone who treated them as the minimum and who was already working on the next thing. The city's power was stable. The shield was at full capacity. The dragon glass weapons, 217,000 units, processed, resonance optimized, distributed. Every freefolk fighter, every Vale soldier, every Northern Lord's remaining force, every man and woman in Stannis' army. The specific, complete quality of an armed coalition that had been building for 2 years, and that was, this morning, assembled on the eastern coast in the specific position McKay had identified on day 112. 43,000 living fighters. The free folk on the northern flank Tormund's 9,000, the specific wild quality of people who had been living north of the wall their whole lives and who understood the cold and who were not afraid of the dark in the specific way that people who had been afraid of it their whole lives were not afraid of it. The Vale army on the southern flank 8,000, ordered and supplied and present, the specific quality of an army that had been behind the bloody gate for 2 years and that had, when the gate opened, moved with the specific, purposeful quality of something that had been waiting. Stannis's force at the center, 4,000, hardened. The specific quality of men who had been at Castle Black through 2 northern winters and who had been watching the sensor feeds every week for 2 years and who understood exactly what they were walking into and who were walking into it. Anyway, the remaining northern forces distributed across the line, fragmented, leaderless in the formal sense, but present and armed and pointed north under the informal weight of the specific thing Sansa had built in her 11 days of ravens and her meeting at the Neck and the 2 years of careful correspondence that had produced not an army in the formal sense, but the specific something that was more resilient than an army, which was a people who remembered what they were. And in the jumpers above the coast, Shepard leading, 6 jumpers total, the specific air support that was going to do the thing that Weir had said from the beginning it was going to do, which was not fight the battle, but shape the space the battle happened in, the specific difference between a faction and a resource. The morning, Weir stood on the East Pier. She stood there alone for a specific amount of time before anyone joined her, not long. The specific quality of a moment that was hers before it became shared. The specific thing she allowed herself before the day began. She looked at the coast, at the ice, at the army on it, the specific distant quality of 47,000 dead things moving south in the long winter's cold, the specific patient quality of something that had been moving toward this moment for 8,000 years. She looked at the city around her, at what it was, at what it had done in 730 days. She did not catalog it. She did not review it in the specific reassuring way of someone who needed the reassurance. She simply looked at it, the specific, complete quality of someone who knew what was here and who was, in the knowing, not uncertain. Tayla came out. She stood next to Weir. They looked at the coast together. "The Neck meeting," Tayla said. "Do you remember what you said when I told you Sansa had organized it?" "Yes," Weir said. "You said," Tayla paused, "you said, she's going to be extraordinary." "Yes," Weir said. "You were right," Tayla said. "I usually am about people," Weir said. The specific quality of the statement, not pride. The specific plain quality of someone who had been reading people for a long time and who had a specific honest relationship with what she was good at. "Elizabeth," Tayla said. Weir looked at her. "Whatever happens today," Tayla said, "what we built it was right. The way we built it was right." Weir looked at the coast, at the army on the ice. "Yes," she said. She picked up her radio. "All units," she said. "Status. Us." The reports came back in sequence. Stannis at the center, Tormund on the north flank, the Vale commander on the south, Shepard in the lead jumper above the coast, McKay at the shield controls, Ronan at the East Pier's defensive position, Jon and Arya at the staging point 1 mile from the coast where the formation was going to hit the shore and where the specific moment was going to come, the 3.4 seconds that everything had been built toward. "Status nominal," Shepard said. "Shield at full capacity," McKay said. "Jon Snow," Weir said. A pause. "Ready," Jon said. "Arya Stark," Weir said. "Ready," Arya said. "Tormund," Weir said. "The free folk are ready," Tormund said. "We have been ready for 1,000 years." Weir looked at the ice, at the army on it, at the specific quality of a morning that was the last morning of the countdown and the first morning of the thing the countdown had been counting toward. "Then we begin," she said. What the season was. Season 2 was 730 days. It was the geothermal relay and the dragonglass weapons and the 217,000 optimized units and the Vale army moving and the Northern Lords meeting at the Neck and Sansa's ravens and Arya finding the jumper in the valley and Jon and Arya in Bay 3 at 0200, finding the timing together. It was Qyburn taking back a message. It was Melisandre looking at the fire precisely. It was McKay in the cave, asking the children of the forest 19 questions and deriving the molecular matrix and understanding that dragonglass was not scarce and never had been. It was Taylor, sitting with Tormund by the fire. It was Sansa on the roof in King's Landing, watching the running lights until they were gone. It was Stannis saying yes, after looking at one slide. It was Ghost, sitting next to the jumper. It was Weir looking at the display at 0300 with the full weight of what was on it and not looking away. It was a building. 730 days of building the specific thing that the world needed to still be alive when the dead arrived. And now, the dead had arrived. And the thing was built. And it began. End of Season 2. The battle for the eastern coast. The engagement of the army of the dead. The breach of the shield. Jon and Arya's approach through the formation. The 3.4 seconds. The Night King continues in Season 3.